And it appears I am live. Hello, everyone. Assuming YouTube's not lying to me today. Are you lying to me? No, you're not. Good. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the stream. My name is Asmagon, and today on the latest open mic podcast episode, we'll be talking about women in wargaming, which is not just, obviously, women in the sphere, although that's going to be talked about, I assume. But specifically, it's about the panel that occurred in Salute, South London, the sexist panel, I might add. I stand by that pretty firmly. I did do a video on this, by the way. It was a half-hour long, and for some people, their attention spans were not capable of keeping up with such a excessively long video. So, who knows? Maybe in today's open mic, we can actually get some conversation with those same people. I invited on two people who, one of them I'm pretty sure watched it, but just didn't pay attention. And the other one is someone who admitted they didn't watch the video, but in both cases, they weren't people who were like pro this panel or anything. They were people who thought I was walking on eggshells in regards to the panel itself and the content therein. When I don't get me wrong, I can see that to a degree in the video, but that wasn't what was happening. I do want to make that clear in that video. I wasn't walking on eggshells. Like, I didn't go into the video afraid of any kind of response, and if you know anything about this channel and my history in the sphere, you know I really have nothing to fear at this point. I mean, I've continuously defended Arch Warhammer over the years. I still have never lifted from that line. I stand by it. Arch is probably my favorite content creator outside of my own stuff in the sphere. Of course, I'm biased to my own stuff, so, I mean, I'd hope I like my own shit. But, you know, I like Arch Warhammer. I still defend him in the sphere. I don't think he's ever done anything to deserve the cancellation waves that constantly come at him. And, you know, I've got it on good authority that after I've defended him twice, by the way. I've defended him twice. And through two major controversies. And I was right alongside him during the email campaign in terms of trying to get GW to, you know, back up their involvement with politics, and hopefully they'll stay out of that to this day. Fingers crossed. But you know, I got it on good authority from a fellow 40K content creator that I cannot name due to their, you know, them not wanting to be associated with me, and I'm respecting their wishes, despite the fact that I did tell them I thought their move was a bit cowardish. But I digress. I got it on good authority that I've been blacklisted by pretty much every major 40K content creator since the last controversy I defended Arch in, the one I actually got an interview from over Discord with him for. So yeah, that's just something to lay out there. I find it weird that people assume I was walking on eggshells despite that history being there. But to be fair to these two gentlemen that I've invited on today to kind of discuss that element of it, but also obviously the open mic is about the women in wargaming. It's not just about that, but I do want to bring that up because I feel a lot of people had a severe misunderstanding on like why I had like a 4 to 5 minute preamble in that video, which admittedly was too long. But the main reasons I had such a long preamble, like, you know, setting the tone and everything in that, was A, it was unscripted. And whenever I'm unscripted, anyone who's been on any of my live streams can attest to this, I ramble. A lot. Like, I ramble until the idea has been reiterated ad nauseum in my fucking head. That is what I do. So, that's, to be quite frank, if I had scripted that video, not only would the video probably have been less than 15 minutes, but the preamble may have been a sentence to 2 sentences. Because when I script things, I make them concise, I make them contained, and I don't go on these wicked, stupid, you know, lengthy things, reiterating the same thing over and over again. That's why I tend to script the commentary videos. At the very least, I bullet point them, but I didn't even do that for that video because I wanted to be as genuine and as honest and off the cuff as possible, as opposed to constrained to a script or a bullet point script. I just wanted to be as open about it as possible. So that's the real reason it was so lengthy. It wasn't because I was, you know, like, oh, I fear being canceled over this. I have 5,000 subs. I've already been blacklisted by every major content creator in the sphere. I know certain ones hate my fucking guts. Leaky Cheese hates my ass. Not that I ever wanted to collab with that dickwad. I hate Lord Sotek for a lot of reasons, and I've heard that he's mentioned me before in, not in a video, but apparently in like passing on like a Discord, and he apparently hates my guts too. I have no evidence of that one though, so I don't got the receipts. I don't know if that's true. I've just been told that. So, you know, I'm under no delusions that I have something to lose in this sphere. So, I don't know. I found those comments kind of funny to me. But again, they're probably newer viewers that had a different, you know, who don't know the history of the channel or me as a person. So, that's kind of by the by. Oh, we're having a lot of people jump in. Alright, James Knight and Telcree, Cindy, welcome. So, Chicken Strips, and Peter Miller. Those are all the people who just jumped in. Welcome, everybody. I'd say cut it down a tad, folk gamble on setting up a video and point. I'm sure the audience forgot what the hell the video is about sometimes. Wait, what? Did I read that right? I'd say cut it down a tad, folk amble. I keep getting caught on that. On setting up a video. To the point, I'm sure the audience forgot what the hell the video is about sometimes. Okay. What? Anyway. So, I want to make that clear. I'm just kind of pushing that aside. So today's open mic, like I said, we're talking about women in wargaming, the specific panel that happened in Salute, South London. And at this panel, the panel was restricted to just women, and by admission to the people who participated in the panel was solely about women and in their own words, non-male issues in the sphere. So it's the panel is self-admitted as excluding men and men's issues in the sphere, and focusing only on women. And this was the weirder part, the non-male genders or some other terminal, basically the alphabet community. So women and the alphabet community, and focusing on their issues in the sphere. And I have an issue with that. First of all, it's because this is the first time, as far as I can think, in the Warhammer or tabletop sphere ever, that we have constricted or limited people based on gender, and we've segregated a group into being only viewed for their gender, and that be the women on this panel and any who agree with them. The thing is, I said it in the video and I'll say it again. I would still have a problem with it if the panel were purely about celebrating the women in the sphere, because we don't have a panel dedicated to celebrating the men. And despite what the woke nut job activists will say, like, oh, well, every single, like, Hobby Heroes is about celebrating the men. And no, because Hobby Heroes has never once had in its taglines, as far as I've ever seen, say, celebrating the men of Warhammer. No, it's never been what it's been about. Shut up. Fuck off. Anybody can be in Hobby Heroes and the Hobby Heroes panel. So there's been no gendered panels until now, and what makes this panel worse is that it's focusing on, like, not celebrating these women and their achievements as content creators or as personalities in the sphere. It's not really lifting them up in what they've done and looking at the positive of their contributions to the community. No, it's specifically about victimhood and victimizing them in the sphere of Warhammer and of tabletop wargaming. That's the admitted goal based on Hattie's own words from the Midwinter's Minis video I saw. She said it herself that was the point of the panel. It wasn't to celebrate these women and their accomplishments, which, again, still I'd have a problem with it because it's a gendered thing, whereas it should just be, you know, I think Hattie herself deserves a spot on Hobby Heroes. I've seen her stuff on Midwinter Minis. I mean, come on, that's some good shit. But it's that gendered notion of, like, we have to put women, segregate women to their own category for them to get recognition. And again, it's not even recognition. It's just solely, woe is us, we're mistreated in the sphere. When we're treated badly, feel bad for us, cry. When they even say 99% of their experience is positive. The fuck are you talking about? So yeah, I made a whole video about it. I'm not. I just wanted to do that whole like shtick at the beginning here, this first 10 minutes, just to kind of set it up. I think I said they don't jerk them off. Reddit, Twitter, and such. However, bringing it to what is essentially the mainstream is taking this too far. I agree. I agree very much so. It's just I hate what this panel is kind of establishing. I guess right here. I hate what this panel is establishing. It's turning into like a gendered thing, and the politics is starting to be pushed more in the mainstream. And you're right, Chicken Strips, that is what's happening. So, on this open mic, I'm opening the floor to you guys to bring up your own takes and your opinions. You've heard mine in this first 10 minutes, and if you've seen the video I made, you have heard my take in more detail there. Apparently on the walking on eggshells style, but whatever the fuck. But I'm going to bring in my first guests, which is unfortunately not the people I invited directly. Well, I say unfortunate. It's not unfortunate. I'm having other people on. Again, it's an open mic. Everyone's welcome. But, was hoping to pull on Smiling Maniac or Dead Man Walking. But regardless, let me pull in they're both in a general reading room, so grab Tang first. Tang, can you hear me? Boom. Boom.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, good. So, this is the new thing, I suppose. Back to the old topics. Actually, I wanted to speak more about the whole topic in general, the whole women in wargaming thing.
All right, go right ahead.
And, yeah, it's like, if I think back in the day when there was, for example, let's say women in, in football, or women in any other topic that they made like panels of, they made shows of. We didn't really care at that point about any women gathering with other women talking about stuff, because it was just a group gathering talking about things they like. But I think that the whole reaction nowadays, especially how you did the whole video and how a lot of people I think are feeling about this, is that it's not about women in wargaming. It's about agenda in wargaming.
Yeah,
could have been
a good way to put it.
Could have been any other group in wargaming, and it's like a hood that some group has placed upon themselves, which is the most accepted one at this point.
Yeah, and the thing is, Hattie from Midwinter Minis, for example, the one I directly had a video from, she said and self-admitted that that's what the panel was about. The panel was not about celebrating these women in space, which I think people would accept more readily. I would still have problems with it, because again, it's bringing a gendered element to a sphere that hasn't had that up till now. But she admitted that the goal of the panel was to talk about the supposed marginalization and the supposed particularly bad experiences that they've had in the sphere, and how the rest of us need to do better to make it more welcoming for them. That's from her own words. It's not about celebrating women.
And that is a lot of red flags, because we've heard these kinds of nonsense before, and we know that they are 90% just made up.
Yeah. And there's almost never evidence brought forth of the supposed harassment that they experience.
It's not the things they say, it's the way that they say the same things again and again. It's just a tried out formula. Like, we can basically rewrite their speech for any other topic, and they would probably say it for any other topic, because it's the same speech again and again. It's the same. Oh, this marginalized group is having problems with this other dominant group, and we have problem with this specific grievance. And we need to change this whole thing, because this grievance is bad. For reasons. It's the whole, it sounds like almost an evangelical thing. It's like, oh, I'm gonna read you the scripture of the oppressed, And now there's the marginalized groups that were oppressed by this, and it's like, oh, come on, we've heard about this like
I love you
15
so
times.
much, Tang. I could kiss you, my brother. That is so perfect. Yeah, it is very evangelical. It's like that Southern Baptist. We need to strike these sinners down. We need to bring them to the level and make them pay for the sins against the Lord.
Exactly. And also, I want to reach this topic is like when they say, "Oh, we need representation." Okay, and when you ask them why, I haven't heard a proper answer of that. Like, why do you need representation? What is the point of representation? Oh, because we need to have more marginalized groups. Why? It's like, oh, but we need to have more women because women are excluded. It's like, okay, but do women want to be in part of the hobby? Yes. Okay, what's stopping them being part of the hobby? Oh, the men. It's like, okay.
How so?
All the men or some of the men? All the men. Okay, so are there no women in the hobby? Well, there are some women in the hobby. Okay, what's making them stay in the hobby while all the other women don't want to be in the hobby? It's like why is there's so many women in the hobby that 99% have no problem with it, and then it's like, oh, but we cannot have women. Yeah, because women that you want to put in, they don't care about it. They're individuals. They have interests. They have hobbies. They have other things they're interested in. And if we want to include them in everything, they basically have to be immortal, because there's not enough time in the day to have all the hobbies in the world, have all the women in the world.
Right, and that's actually a consistent issue we see with these woke activist talking points that always comes up is they always run under the assumption that if something is a male, using their terminology, a male-dominated space, that it's because women have been rebuffed from that space and women aren't welcome in that space. When, if we look at other examples of this in the past, like D&D used to be considered that years and years ago. Like, oh, women, it was a hobby only for like nerds and stuff, and then when women started to go in, women were being rebuffed. That's just simply not true. Like, this narrative has been pushed in so many spheres when oftentimes, if you look at how men respond to women joining these spaces, it's oftentimes men pushing their like girlfriends or sisters or their like moms or female friends into trying gaming or to trying tabletop gaming or to try D&D. We're the ones usually bringing them in because we want to share what we love with the women in our lives that we love. And it's just quite often women just don't like these things. It's not any kind of, oh, they're being constantly harassed every second of every day that they dare to open up a D&D book or they dare to paint a miniature. They're just constantly bombarded with sexism and hatred when again, like, that's so untrue. It's not. It's not happening.
And also there's the fact when they say, oh, we don't want to exclude anyone, they exclude themselves. They don't want to be part of that hobby. They may have seen it. They may have said, okay, that's not for me, and they may have moved on.
Yeah.
Who are you to deny their individualism, their humanity, their right of choice? Oh, we need to put women in. Okay, are you the overlord of women? You rule over all womankind and tell them exactly what they need and need not to do?
I tell you, a lot of these male leftist activists would like to be that. They may not say it ever, but based on their behavior. Wow. Oh my god.
That's
like a leftist nutjob calling a Vor a breeder because she didn't want female space marines in the hobby. Like,
oh boy.
That's the only sexism I've ever seen in regards to this space, and it was propagated by someone supposedly fighting sexism.
Also, one other thing. What happened to just being a fan of something? It's, oh, I like Warhammer and I'm a woman. Okay, you like Warhammer. I don't care about anything else. Let's talk about Warhammer. I don't care what you have between your legs, what you have between your ears. I don't care. Let's talk about Warhammer.
Exactly.
That's the only thing I care about.
Exactly. And that's what most of us, that's all we care about. And that's how it's been for decades.
Exactly.
There's never been like this browbeating like group of misogynists that just go to hobby stores and like get the women out, get the women out, get the women out. It's never been a thing. It's never been a thing. It's not a thing now. It's not. It wasn't traditionally. It's just
Well,
yeah. There was a time. There was a time where I think before I would say anytime before 2010 where things really started ramping up in politics in the West and things were getting extra politicized in the escapist space, you would not have seen a panel like this. And women were always welcome in these spaces. And yeah, it's just the women who have been in wargaming from back then that haven't fallen for the political lines will tell you. It's like, this is a very welcoming space. If you come with a mentality of just wanting to enjoy the hobby and wanting to enjoy the space, then you're going to be welcome. And the one or two guys on social media who have a hair across their ass, nobody's gonna listen to. Like those assholes that you will encounter, they'll always be there. Ignore them. Focus on the real experiences you will have and the real kind people you will meet, because guess what? That's the majority of us.
Okay. Well, because I'm on my phone, I would have to jump out.
Okay.
Maybe I'll join in later and we'll continue this, but let's just pull someone else in.
All right. Thank
It
you.
was nice talking. And yeah.
Thank you.
I'll be back.
All right. Thank you.
See you then.
All right, we're gonna pull in our next caller. That'd be Candina, and by the way, great call from Tang. If we don't get him back later, that was a great call. Candina, you hear me?
Yeah, hey.
All right, great. Real quick before we get into our talk, Chicken Strip said in the chat, honestly, man, this is why I'm struggling with this hobby. This is also why I keep to myself nowadays. And I would like to address like that notion, and trust me, I get that, wanting to kind of restrict yourself and starting to fear, and that's another reason why panels like this I have such a problem with, is again, it's creating this segregated mindset, and it's making people feel unwelcome, because now we're making things about gender where they weren't before, we're making things about race where they weren't before, we're making things about sexual orientation where they weren't before. That's the evil plight of politicization in our spaces. But the thing you gotta keep in mind, Chicken Strips, is that's what they want. They want to push you out. They want you to leave so they can put down the flag of victory and say, hey, we own this. This is ours now. And now they get to gatekeep it from us ever enjoying it again and ruining its future and its space. Now, I'm not saying you have to be an anti-activist and fight against them, but just simply avoid their spaces. If you're on social media and you share something and like someone's like, that's not PC, block them. Ignore them. Don't interact with them. Don't give them the time of day. Just enjoy the hobby for what it is. Paint your minis. Enjoy what you paint. Share them with people you know who are going to judge it for its paint job and are going to appreciate it for what it is, as opposed to, is it woman enough? Is it representation enough? And that goes for all angles of that stuff. Like, just don't abandon it quite yet, because that's what they're after. They want to convince you that you're an isolated piece on the board and that you're alone and that there's this unbeatable tidal wave coming in and that they're going to own the thing eventually. Don't do that. You are a mainstay here. You don't need to be an anti-activist, like I said, but just plant your feet and say, hey, this is something I enjoy. You're not going to tell me I can't enjoy it, and you're not going to tell me how I'm supposed to enjoy it. That's just all you got to do. And yeah, I get that can be hard. And again, just avoid certain areas and circles where these types of people, these politically minded people, are most active. So obviously, like Twitter, don't go on Twitter. Reddit, unfortunately, very politicized these days, so I'd avoid Reddit. But, go to Discords, go to, like private Discords, go to specific YouTubers who are very, if they're not activists, that they're just content creators that focus on the actual hobby itself. I'd say outside of this particular thing, Midwinter Minis is that for me. I almost never see them espouse politics, and for me, this is the first time I ever got the vibe that they thought this kind of way. But I'm not going to let this ruin the rest of their content, which is very much neutral and hobby focused. So just, find your comfort sphere and find your comfort group of friends to share your stuff with. That's all you got to do, man. Anyway, Kadena, sorry for the wait there. Welcome.
I just want to first and foremost say amen, brother, to that. Very good, well said.
Thank you.
Either which way, thank you for having me on, man.
No problem.
So, women in wargaming. We're back to this.
Indeed we are.
So, much of what I wanted to say has already been covered by Tang. Blessings upon him.
Mm-hmm.
He put it very well.
He talked more about the grander subject of women being in the space, and also with that the political diversity stuff. Did you have anything you wanted to say specifically about like the panel and Salute, the South London panel?
Yes, a little bit.
Okay.
First and foremost, I'm just sad it became like this because it just does nothing else than divide the community in different parties, which we really don't want. We want to be a unified community and all.
Yeah.
And I did not finish the last video discussing about this. Sorry, but I think I don't think I would have minded this panel too much had it been something akin to a, how do you say, like an uplifting kind of panel, like, hey, these are some people that have done well by the community. These are well respectable women who have participated in our hobby and community, and therefore they deserve some recognition for this.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you first.
Well, I was just going to say that I fully agree, and I think most people would agree. I'd still have a problem with it on the basis that it's still creating a gap and a segregation and a division in the community, because you're now saying, okay, well, women need special treatment and need to be lifted up. But I wouldn't have as much of a problem with it as I do this panel, which is self-admitted by the members of the panel that it's about talking about the supposed particular hatred that they receive just for being women, and the poor experiences that they have just because they're non-women. It's a negative panel that's very much about controversy and gender stuff. It's a political panel, very much so. But
yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, but if it was solely about just lifting up them as community members, I'd have less of a problem with it. Still have a problem with it because it's a gendered thing where there hasn't needed to be a gendered thing ever before, but there'd still be something for me to latch onto to say it's not all bad. It's something I can champion, at least on the angle of these women are at the very least showcasing a good element of the hobby. Maybe they're talented painters showcasing their latest models and how engaging they are with the community. Maybe they're a podcaster or a YouTuber that talk about the lore and the setting, and they actually like bring people in from that angle. If it was something like that, I think a lot of people, including myself, would be able to at the very least condone its existence and see something positive about it. Whereas at the panel as it is right now, it's just about whining and complaining and making our community, and if anything, making our community and our hobby look bad.
Yeah.
In my opinion, for what they've already admitted in their own panel is a single % of their experience. They're focusing admittedly on the minority of their experience, whereas the vast majority is positive. So why are you bringing down why are we having a panel giving attention to that 1%?
Yeah. Precisely. That's a big concern because, as you say, and as they themselves admitted to in the panel, there's like this 1% of douchebags who say bad things and comment mean things to us, as in the women saying this, and therefore this community is therefore a problem. Where I'm sitting here like, dude, you are lucky if you have 99% positive reception in any community.
Oh yeah,
Even if
absolutely.
it's like you and I disagree on the lore or you and I disagree on the setting, there's never going to be a. If you have 99% positive feedback to your involvement in the community, count your fucking blessings, my dude.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any like spaces out there that you would get that anyone would safely describe their experience as. I get 99% of my experience, all of my experiences are positive in this space. Like I don't get describe my experience in any space like that. Like I'd say it's more than 5% to 10% of my experience in most spaces is fairly negative. And and according to this panel, I'm supposedly on the side of things that has it like on Gold Street, right? I'm walking on sunshine every day, and everyone kisses my ass and licks my taint because I'm a guy in this space, and magically I don't deal with any kind of crap when that's just not true. Everybody deals with crap in these spaces, and it's frustrating to say the least of what like this panel's focusing on.
Oh yeah. I think I wanted to mention back there in terms of the problem of having a women-dedicated panel about because of proxy of gender. I think I'm in slight opposition there because I definitely think that there is some merit to having a female-based how do you say panel, depending on the purpose and the reason. Because I said this a while back. I do not agree with the sentiment as such, but I can see how the wargaming community could be perceived a little bit as a bit of a boys' club. Is it true? Hell no. We're not keeping anyone out. But I can understand the perception of it, especially because of what people like these kinds of panels bring up and make it seem like somehow we're devils incarnate because we're keeping out the poor women from joining the community. No, if anything, it is things like this that gives us a bad perception, and by proxy of that, they're just not inclined to come and give us a chance.
All right, I will present you a question then, since you are
Go on.
For me.
Of course.
Isn't creating a women's panel, or let's say using a different example, let's say when making a blacks panel or a Mexican panel or a take your pick Asian panel of wargamers, wouldn't that be inviting us to again segregate ourselves and divide ourselves where that's not what we do now? Right now it's just panels like Hobby Heroes, where it's not gendered. It's just celebrating the most talented people in the sphere, the most active in the sphere. It's celebrating the champions of our hobby. And we have painting competitions where obviously we showcase the winners of that, and it's just down to who had the best work that they did, etc. But inviting things in like a gendered panel is... I get what you're saying, that like the goal was like, okay, to celebrate the few women that we do currently have, but again, isn't that dividing us retroactively?
I definitely see your point, and I would like to correct myself in a certain way then, because I did not mean to imply that I think it is innately good that there's a women's only panel, because obviously it isn't. It's only segregating us, as you say. What I meant to imply more along the lines of was that maybe I'm just playing a bit of devil's advocate. I like to view both sides and everything. But if the intent of such a panel was not to say like, oh, here is only the most important women in the hobby or something like that, but rather be like, give a bit of an outwards appearance of, hey, look, there are women here who enjoy the hobby. Please, other women, give this a chance. And as I said,
but couldn't we achieve that same thing by simply, for example, Hattie from Midwinter Minis, who is a talented painter? Couldn't we just simply showcase her on the Hobby Heroes panel, for example?
Oh, I agree. But unfortunately, as it stands right now, we have a lot of outside influences, which I would dare is not really... I call outside influence because I dare not call them part of the hobby. that say like, oh, but this is so sexist and these are awful people going on in here. You better be careful if you want to join. It could be better. Such a force could be better applied if we have women saying, no, this is a perfectly healthy and fine community. And I know for a fact, because speaking from personal experience, I've had female friends and obviously my mother as well, who tried to get a bit engaged with this community thing. When I started coming out, hey, I like Warhammer. I like to gather models. I like to paint them, have fun. And they try to like engage in that same thing, to be like supportive. And they find all these badly negative press from the more extremist and left-leaning communities that try to paint us in a bad brush. And they immediately went to me and, is this really a community you want to join? And I'm like, yes, don't listen to them. Listen to the parts of the community that actually engages in it.
Right, and I get what you're saying is like propping up and having women talk about the positive things and hopefully encouraging other women to join.
Yeah.
But do we have to have a entirely woman-centric panel to do that? Whereas opposed, again, hobby heroes. Or perhaps we could make a panel which is just called Hobby Celebration, where we have men, women, not that I think we should highlight people for that, but maybe other groups like a black gamer, or again, I wouldn't want that, but devil's advocate, go in the extreme. Let's just have like a panel of people from different backgrounds and different environments on a panel where it's all about talking about like, you know, the community and encouraging people to come in, and you know, like, why not have that as opposed to a panel that's segregated into a single group? Like, here's the women's panel, here's the men's panel, here's the non-binaries panel, here's the black people's panel, here's the Mexicans panel. Stop me when it sounds fucked. Like,
yeah,
I just don't agree with that. We have to have a panel that's segregated to a group, where that whole idea is, I think, only going to create division and create animosity between groups, where currently and traditionally we have simply just been the community. We weren't the women in wargaming, we weren't the men in wargaming, we were the wargamers.
Oh, I agree, 100%. I just meant that I can see the value in such a panel if it was for that intent, and well, some merit to it. If it was for that intent and that purpose and that reason that they wanted to exist and they acted upon it. Ultimately, that is not how we should go about it, but I can see the merits in such a thing, considering how much the left is trying to hammer down our community. I see the merits in a little bit of a focus, though I do not approve or like it in any regard, because, as I say, it's segregating, it is kind of bigoted to be like that, and overall it's just harmful to our whole community to start painting each other with different brushes. It's not the same thing. It's not right.
I'd agree. That's why I don't want panels like this.
I don't want them either, but here we are. Best we can do, try to steer them in a direction that is a bit more in a positive light, so to speak.
Oh yeah. And I think that's what we should definitely focus on.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. So,
chat, I'm gonna real quick share the link to the Call Lines Discord. Feel free to join that if you'd like to weigh in about this topic. So Candina, is there anything else you'd like to address in regards to the women in wargaming stuff?
In regards to women in wargaming stuff, I think we need to watch out for. It's a silly thing to really bring up because it's a fallacy in its very name, but a slippery slope, where we need to have a little bit of pushback against panels like this, even if it means like you're simply not showing up, which is if we give too much credit to panels like these, done in this kind of spirit, in this kind of measure, like basically just being a complaining platform, then we're in for a rough ride if we start giving credence and support to that, because it will only end up in such a way where ultimately, how do you say, we just keep on dividing ourselves, we keep on marginalizing people that don't need to be marginalized, and then it's just downhill from there until we are basically 15 different kinds of communities in the wargaming sphere, and no one knows exactly who's on whose side.
Well said, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too. Thank you for the time.
Thank you for coming on. I much appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Take care.
Take care. All right. So before I pull on the next caller, which is actually a friend of mine, I real quick want to like scan the chat, see if there's anything I want to address there. So earlier said I distaste the idea, or is it distaste? Yeah, distaste the idea of just being featured because of my gender. And yeah, I made a segment about that in my video about this, which unfortunately people like Smiley Maniac and just Smiley Maniac and anybody who just watched the preamble aspect but didn't watch the actual video will have missed. But I made a point into it that, yes, that is another thing that disgusts me about this panel, is the women on it are not being, again, they've admitted it's not about celebrating them, so these women aren't on this panel because of any kind of inherent talent or ability that they have. They're on it because they're a public figure, a public personality, and they have a vagina. That's it. That's the only reason they're being celebrated. They're not, like, I don't know about you guys, but I've never seen a panel before this in this space where someone was being celebrated because they had a penis. Like, you had to be on, if you wanted to be on Hobby Heroes, you couldn't just have a dick and balls. You had to have done something. You had to have contributed to our space positively and enhanced the hobby space. These are things that needed to be done before you could earn a spot. And instead of now judging people on merit and contribution, these women are just being brought on because they are A, public figure, B, they have a vagina, and C, they said yes. I can't, like, like, for example, I have autism. If I have Asperger's. If they had a panel that was autists in wargaming, which, by the way, would be all of us, let's be honest, but let's pretend it's the minority, autists in wargaming, and they invited me on, would I feel good about it? Fuck no. I'd be like, you just want me, you just want me on because I'm fucked. Like, I'm being brought on for an immutable characteristic I can't fix, change, or alter. Like, that's so fucked. Like, who would want that? Of course, if they then followed up with, we'll pay you $300 million, it's like, send me! But, jokes aside, it would feel like shit. Like, I can't imagine wanting to be on a panel like this. Wanting to be on Hobby Heroes, absolutely. Because at that point, it's because you're being recognized as a contributor to the space. Like as a painter or as a lore enthusiast or as a community manager or whatever have you. Whatever angle of the hobby you come at, you're being celebrated for actually contributing. Whereas here, they're being celebrated because they have a vagina and they have supposedly had bad experiences, which they admit is 1% of their experience. Okay? I don't know. I can agree with that. I want to be recognized for what I do, what I achieve through the work of my own, not just how I was born in all spaces. Exactly. Well said, Sil. Well said. Let's just scan in real quick. Is it too late to build a wall around the U.S. to stop the import of such god-awful politics? Unfortunately, the god-awful politics is already here. I wish building a wall would fix it. Hop on, but I don't have anything to add to what's already... Well, you know, if you change your mind, like, there's still space, and it could be something minor. You could just be wanting to ask a question, but, You don't need to have like some grandiose statement or anything. Hell, you might even reiterate what someone else has said, but if you reiterate it in your own way, it's still contributing to the open mic. So, just think about it. And I think I'm all caught up. The only panel that I can allow is for the players with physical disabilities. Physical? Like if you're I don't know, I might do like Special Olympics, style. Like if there was someone with Down syndrome or some kind of what's the term? Neurodivergent or whatever. It was someone with a disability that affects their ability to cognitively participate to the point where they could be on the level as like the best painters and stuff. Yeah, I could see us doing like a special panel for for those types of people in wargaming. Still, though, sometimes I've been to a Special Olympics type event before, and it is good to see most of the kids like feel good to be celebrated and loved despite their disadvantages. But sometimes like you can tell that they don't want to be singled out so much sometimes. But anyway, I'm now going to bring in my next caller. That'll be... Aw. He left the call. Okay, I guess I'm pulling in the second. Afiel. Afiel. Welcome.
Wait a sec.
Oh.
I need to shut myself 1 moment. 1 moment. So, my daughter's not really pleased about not being on the phone. Hello?
Hello?
Yes. So, the thing is about all that representation stuff, that's a bit weird sometimes if you ask me. Because most of the times it's like this, yeah, we need representation, but only the kind of representation we want to push. And not in a general kind of way, and only mostly of the time in the activism kind of way. Funnily enough. And to be honest, if you have like a 99% positive reaction, it's nice. To be honest.
Yeah, that's a pretty good environment compared to most.
And to be honest, 1% are creeps. Wow. In which community are there only like 1% negative experiences? Just compare it like to play World of Warcraft in the Mythic Plus region or something like that. How much negative like super idiots you have in that community?
Well, you can't even like type in the chat though. Like, if you type in the chat during a raid, like if you LFR for example, you will get someone responding like instantly with shut the fuck up.
Kick him! Vote kick.
Like, so you can't even interact with those groups.
And then, to be honest, one of the like weirdest stuff for me as a European is like this. The entire thing in and of itself is like most of the time when stuff like that happens, you know what happens when you as an American visit Europe most of the time? How you will be received, no matter what type of American you are. You will be called an American.
Right.
Nothing, no more, nothing less. It's like it doesn't matter from where you are. It's California, Florida, Tennessee, Texas, whatever, Wisconsin, wherever you come from. It's so you're American.
Yeah, the only people who would like mind just being called an American are like the nut jobs who are super like identified by their like state, like Californians. It's like, actually, I'm Californian. Like, I am an American, but I'm specifically a Californian. I'm like, oh.
And most of the stuff that's a bit weird that comes from the USA and Europe is these days the people start calling that stuff Yankee nonsense.
I'm gonna borrow that Yankee nonsense.
No, and if I asked my girlfriend before I hopped in about this stuff, and she said the only thing that was weird in the Games Workshop or in the local store was that the guys stared at her like she was some kind of unicorn or paradise bird. Something like, oh, it's a woman. We have to look. And it was not something like in the super, oh, the creeps are coming out. And it was just more like, oh, there's a female in the Games Workshop.
Because it's rare.
Yeah. And to be honest, she loves Sisters of Battle most of the time. So she doesn't play very much Warhammer. But she loves the books about Sisters of Battle and like what was it called? That one Cadian Lieutenant Mira Lesk from this like Cadia book series where the regiment is stranded after Cadia breaks.
I think so. I don't know if that's in the book, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and in our local store, there are 2 female workers, and one of them has like one of the biggest Beastman armies ever, and she also collects a Death Guard army, but most of her Death Guard is Boxwalkers, and now she's at a count of 300 plus painted Boxwalkers.
Jesus.
Yeah, she digs the zombie horde stuff.
I'd actually like to fight that army. I might, to be quite frank, I could probably easily beat that army, but
You need blast weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my daughter also has like a Warhammer army. She plays Elder. I mean, the only thing that ever happened that was a bit weird was a guy that was like the typical activist female ally type. That was a little bit on the creepy side, and tried to invite younger girls to his home.
Yeah, that's a different kind of creep. A worse kind.
Mm-hmm. But our local store boss dealt with him the like perfect way. He went out with him, and the guy never came in again.
I'm not going to ask any questions and hope that the outcome I would have done was done. He's like, let me take you back to the back alley. No reason. Comes back, he's like washing something red off his hands. So did you deal with him? Yeah, so what do you want to buy?
To be honest, it's I don't know. We have like 1 or 2 stories that were a little bit funny or weird in some kind of way. But one guy in our local store, I don't know if he plays anymore. I haven't seen him since Rona-chan hit the world. And he was half like European, half African descent, and he was playing most of the time. What was his army? Like a Speed Freaks army of orcs, and he had like 6k points in Speed Freaks. And
nice.
His army is like his concept was everything that walks is wrong in my army.
If it's not on wheels, it's wrong.
Yeah, and there was one guy, just one of the typical. We have like one guy and his friend and his girlfriend, and they're like the activist kinds of types. And the girlfriend of the guy never buys anything. She's just in the store and annoys people. And most of the time our store manager just then kicks her out after like 10 minutes inside the store and says, you don't buy anything, you only offend the customers, you get on my nerves, just leave. And she was also like walking to people, oh, that's a nice miniature, how do you paint her? And then she's like, oh my god, I didn't want to like misgender your miniature, is she a female model and stuff like that. And
oh, get the fuck out. It's a miniature.
Yeah, that's the thing. And like that girl, her boyfriend, and a friend of those two. I don't know. Maybe like the third wheel in that relationship. I don't know. Weird things happen in that kind of lunacy department.
I mean, cuckoldry is their specialty, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and the guy was talking to my friend who was like of half European African descent, and they said, yeah, you know, there's like this racist shit in Warhammer where like half racist is super racist and stuff like that. And I turned around, what the fuck, when in Warhammer Fantasy ever were like something mixed of elf and human or stuff like that?
I'll never understand how the product of a lack...
any lore pieces that I ever read, to be honest.
I'll never understand how the product of the opposite of racial discrimination, a biracial person, that's considered racist.
Yes.
What kind of drugs are you doing?
The answer is yes.
The fuck?
And he explained that in Warhammer there were like, yeah, they are racist people and they are of mixed racial descent and stuff like that. And I said, what the fuck? I never heard of a half human, half elf in Warhammer lore. Never ever had I heard.
Are they not
of, like,
are they not a thing in
elf.
Warhammer lore? Okay, I'm not familiar with fantasy.
I don't know about Age of Sigma. It almost slipped my tongue again. The Age of Sigma, the real name of that fandom. But yeah, I don't get that stuff. And he was actually really creeped out by that guy. And the other, like the trio couple, they're always, every time they are in the store, everyone takes a break and leaves for a coffee until they are gone.
Yeah, I can see why. The thing is, I've lucked out even in that regard. I have never encountered even the activists in real life. Like, the hobby shop I go to, like the tournaments and stuff, the guys are just cool guys. Like, no, like, I even did, like, a short one time where I just, I asked them a question, like, hey, what do you think of female Space Marines? And all of them were like, why would we want that? Sisters of Battle. They're right over there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's just...
If you ask me if you get female Space Marines into Warhammer lore, you would devalue everything that the Sisters of Battle are.
I agree. So, if you had to...
I sent you a PM about a topic that happened in my local store, but the thing is, I don't know if that's too hot for the YouTube guideline blah blah stuff.
Let me read it. Don't use that word if you can avoid it, but the story is, I think, important to share. But if you can use a different terminology for...
I will try to ship around it. It's like
self-deletion. That might work.
Yeah. We had the trans person in the Warhammer community that was actually really welcomed. And she had, to be honest, a really big Slaanesh army. And one of how is it called, that Age of Sigma army, the steampunk dwarves thingies. The steampunk dwarves.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's an AOS army.
Yes, I don't know the real name. I just call him the steampunk dwarves. And the thing was, she had issues most of the time, and one of the guys was just a super creep and just a super bully and was like, oh, you can do this, you can do that. And because she was trans and she was based, the guy was offended by her existence. And because the guy was constantly hounding her every time she was in the store, she stopped showing up.
And to be fair, sorry, not to be fair, but to be clear, this guy was a left-leaning activist. Yep. This was somebody who supposedly champions these groups.
Let's say it like that. If you see it on the street, you would see it like he's like a little bit small, a little bit chubby, has weird colored hair, a side cut, and some like 5 septum piercings. It's not like a generalization, but most of these people tend to lean towards the side haircut style these days.
Yeah. They follow trends pretty religiously. Real quick, I got a super chat. Farron, what the hell? Why does that block his name? Forlorn! Karadran Overlords. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Thank you.
That's the one that is
Steampunk Dwarfs. Yes, the Steampunk Dwarfs. Thank you for...
the Ether Gold, or how that stuff is called.
Yeah, so...
But yeah, and then she was leaving that, and then she realized that he was actually not so... I don't know how to say that, the last part. Yeah, she had issues with the transitioning and then oft deleted,
Self-deleted.
Hmm.
Yeah, that
but
sucks.
I think the hounding in the community and the losing, the loss of the community didn't help in that department.
No. Sounds like it was actually a significant contributor. But yeah, that's been my experience as well with the left-lean types, and I am very sorry for your friend, by the way. That is very sad.
Yeah,
but
it was like a combination of that one guy that was hounding and bullying others, then the issues with the body health about the transitioning, and then Rona-chan also at the same time. Yeah. It was just a volatile mixture.
Yeah, that's a lot for someone to deal with, and yeah, in my experience, that matches. Like the welcoming and kind people often tend to be either apolitical or right-leaning most of the time these days. and are just like normal hobbyists. They don't look at this stuff through a political lens. They're just, when they talk about the lore, it's not talking about like how few or how many women there are, or if there's trans representation. No, they just talk about their favorite character. Like it might be, they might be one of the Necron dynasty leaders. Might be talking about the Silent King. They might be talking about. Might be talking about Warhammer Fantasy, Age of Sigmar. They might be talking about specific characters like Gotrek and Felix, which I learned about yesterday, and I need to get an audiobook for.
I know, I told you.
But those are like the people who are... None of those people I've ever met have ever been like the type to be like, hey, women aren't welcome here, get the fuck out. No, they're the type of people who are like, oh, you want to join the hobby? Here's about 14,000 books I recommend. Oh, also, if you want to help buying your first set, I'll contribute. I'd love to have someone new join the tournament scene. That's a normal hobbyist. That's the vast majority of like community members. But for like the negative experiences, I've only ever seen that perpetrated by the people who are supposedly the ones telling us that there's so much of that evil in this community and in this hobby space. But they're it's oftentimes the leftists that are the ones that are propagating it. Like they're the ones pushing people to suicide in your friend's case, and they're also bullying the hell out of people, sending death threats, calling women breeders if they dare to disagree.
They tried that in my country. They tried to replace the wording for the with like it's like, what's the name for that? So it's some kind of papers, and you can make a stamp inside for every like vaccination that you got, something like that, vaccination card or something.
Fuck.
And they actually tried to replace like the word mother on it for like birthing persons and stuff like that.
That's gross. Yeah, and it's just those are the types that I've seen harass and bully people off of stuff like gender and race and the stuff. And it's because if you're the group that they supposedly champion, but you don't agree with them, you're like an anomaly they have to eliminate. So they treat you extra worse than everybody else. And I'll never forget when Syl, one of my best friends in the hobby space and also in my personal community, she was heavily mistreated in like a Twitter thread thing, and not only was she misgendered, but she consistently misgendered by a supposedly woke diversity champion, pro-feminine champion type who was super like, I'm fighting for women and you're discriminating, sexist, all yada yada yada. But then he proceeded to make judgments about her based on what he believed was her ethnic background, calling her what was it? I can't remember if it was like Middle Eastern or like there was a specific like group he assigned to her because she had some. I don't know what the actual text is called, but it's like
the word you're searching for is disgusting behavior.
Farron, thank you for reminding me. He was calling Syl a Palestinian man, even though Syl is a woman and she's German. And I was so disgusted by that. He was harassing
That's a reach
her.
around when you see one.
Oh yeah, he was harassing her like crazy, mistreating her. I was enraged. That was disgusting to me.
For instance, in my local community, I know some people they are in the hobby like for ever. There was one guy, he's a friend of mine. He was playing Warhammer when I was young, and like his wife is playing Warhammer. He has 3 kids. They're all playing Warhammer, and his sister plays Warhammer, and it's like the entire family comes together in the weekend and plays Warhammer, and stuff like that. And it's just like perfect and funny and just awesome. And then you have like this, oh my god, this and this problem, and most of the time the problem is it's like blown out of proportion with like a 50-pound cannon.
Yeah,
and it's just like over the top. Oh my god, this, oh, how can the Warhammer community survive this? Oh, they were so creeps, and oh, it's like, no, the only creeps I ever encountered were the guys, mostly the female allies, because that's the female ally types of them the biggest creeps for me personally.
Yeah, I agree, and that's because that's the only way. Like don't listen to them. Those types, the only reason they're saying and doing everything they're doing is because they want to get a woman. And when a woman dares disagree with them, that's when they show their real colors. Every time.
Yep. They try to weasel around it and then go to the back door.
I have another caller in waiting right now, man. So I just want to end off by asking you real quick. How would you summarize your feelings on the Women in Wargaming panel and what kind of precedent it's setting?
It sets like a picture of the Warhammer community that isn't real. And it's bad for the community if you make a panel like that. It's like, oh, this and that and stuff like that. Oh my god, no, that's not the right way. If there are these massive issues, then people should work together against these issues. And then, but most of the times panels like that are like blown out of proportion, and most of the time it's like they said, oh, it's 99% nice all the time, and it's like, yeah, when it's so nice all the time, why do you have to make such a big issue for everyone? If it's so nice, then why is it so bad at the same time?
Because it's not perfect.
Nothing is perfect.
Exactly.
I said it like in a YouTube comment on your video today. It was like, only in theoretical physics and math there is like 100% surety in an equation. And to be honest, Napoleon even said it. Nothing survives the contact with the enemy at the first sight. No planning, nothing you do, no perfect like outline idea you have survives the contact with the real world.
That is true.
Because something or someone will always try to throw a wrench in your gear.
Yeah, I agree, man.
And you need to get rid of the weirdos and the creeps. But if like one in your chat said, he tries to stay away from the community. By making panels like that, you spook away the nice people and the creeps stay in the community. Because normal nice people don't want to have bullshit around them all the time and made up super drama. They just want to experience a nice hobby and escape a little bit from the madness of this planet. That's just, yeah, it works that way. And I don't know why, but I think we have to suffer some years before everything maybe hopefully returns to normal.
Hopefully.
Let's hope so.
I feel you there, man. Oh, thank you so much for coming on and giving your perspective. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's hope so. And you did a nice job on the video, and keep working at it, because maybe someday you land on the community heroes panel.
No. Oh no.
It will happen when it's okay again that someone that's conservative and like liberal to talk together and work together. But today
I'll probably be old and gray by that point.
That's okay. I'm like 36 and I'm gray in my beard, so gray means nothing.
Okay.
Only makes you sexy.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, it works. Believe me. Have a good evening.
All right, have a good one, man. Thank you. I mean, like, yeah. Maybe I should like spray some gray on my beard. I don't know. But yeah, man. Right, I'm gonna bring him the next caller. That'll be Ludus Infinium, my good buddy. What's up, you sexy son of a bitch?
Hey man, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. How you doing?
Well, I saw this and I had a thought on it, and it sounds more like a self-serving thought, but it makes more sense than what they're doing, so instead of doing like women in wargaming or men in wargaming or anything like that, you could have two separate ones, be completely unbiased, and offend no one. Like top contributors to the community, Luton, Arch, who's the Imperial Fist one?
Thalrek?
Thalric, yeah, people like them. Then have people like up-and-comers in the community.
Up-and-comers could work. It's non-discriminatory. You can fit more people into it.
Like the smaller, the people who have smaller followings who do armies, who do lore, who do whatever, and you have a big panel of them. And then you have the panel of the people who have hundreds of thousands, millions of followers who do the exact same thing. And maybe what you can even do is come together. As an example, like for up-and-comers, someone like me or you, we have our part of the panel, and then like they have the big following panel, and like again, Arch, Luton, Valric, you said?
Yeah, that's the Imperial Fist guy. At least when I think Imperial Fist fans, he's the top of the list.
Because really, and I'm not even going to bullshit, I mostly listen to Arch, or like, although he's gotten, I haven't seen much out of him here lately. Tactica Imperialis, 40k Theories, people like them. And what they could do is like link up the up-and-comers with the ones who already have the following, who they see as they kind of mesh with best. And like, hey, as the middleman, GW would probably be the one sponsoring this because it is Warhammer. But like, hey, you seem to be good at doing this type of lore. Here is person A who is also good at doing this type of lore. Maybe they can give you some tips. Kind of also help with the network.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. It's, like I said, it's non-discriminatory. It's not segregating people in the community based on immutable characteristics. It's just, are you a bigger creator, a smaller creator? Let's bring attention to the top of the community. Let's also bring attention to the up-and-comers. Yeah, I could totally be down for that.
And I know that sounds like really self-serving, but it's just also at the same time, it's kind of like, that's something that makes sense, even as an outsider looking in.
I mean, yeah, but a lot of like good ideas sometimes come from like self-serving, but also like it's not purely self-serving though. It's not like it's like it's you're taking in like other accounts of things.
So I would say probably for the up-and-comers, the limit would be about 10,000 tops, maybe 20. Or at least as far as like YouTube, with like the main contributors or the big boys, as it were, or big people, so I don't offend anyone. Oh no. But probably about what, 100K, 150K minimum.
To be considered like in the big boys, I'd say 100K. Because you got to keep in mind also, like, we're a niche community still.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I was saying like 100, 150 and not like 1 million.
I mean, Warhammer at this point is like on the cusp of mainstream. Like, it's there, but it hasn't crossed the line yet.
No, and honestly, I hope to God it doesn't.
I hope it doesn't either.
I mean, I'm gonna be very honest. I think going mainstream could do a lot of good for the Warhammer community, but I think there's so much more of a chance of it just going so bad for the community. Chicken Strips brought up something funny. I remember this too because this is when I was working at Bojangles, and I just happened to come across, and I was listening to this while I was at work. Arch Warhammer interviewed Markiplier.
Yes, which I don't believe is still up. It might be still up, but I don't believe it's up
I think
anymore.
it still is.
Is it?
I do think it is. I believe it is.
I know that if Markiplier remembered that they had done that, or if someone like brought it up to him, he'd probably ask Arch to take it down.
I don't think so.
I do. I don't know. Mark has. I say it like I know him. Markiplier has very much kowtowed to the cancel culture types in the last couple of years. He's made a lot of apologies he shouldn't have. He's done a lot of that kind of crap.
I get that, but I don't think he would take down it. I don't think he would. Okay, I think he would make the apologies. I don't think he would ask another content creator to take down a video.
Maybe. I'm not sure. We'd have to like see it tested. And I don't want anyone to like harass him about it. So
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't have to get tested.
If it is still up, I can't find it, so I'm happy to admit I might be wrong. But
Homeless Stone says it's still up. He watches it from time to time. Maybe it's just, is it unlisted? Maybe it's still up, but if you don't have a link, you can't find it.
unless you gotta do some digging, yeah.
Let
Like the first thing that
find-
popped up, and I didn't know this, is Adeptus Podcastus, which is Tactical Imperialist 40k Theories. Also did an interview with Markiplier, and I hate his character art. They dressed him up as a commissar. Which
the first thing that comes up, yeah, you're right, Adeptus Podcastus. I am not getting.
yeah, I couldn't find it, but I can do some digging and
Yeah, I don't see it. I'm scrolling. It's at this point, it's just showing Arch's videos now. It's no interview. It might be unlisted.
it could be.
Huh? But yeah, more on point. How do you? So with this specific, have you seen my video?
I have not, but I have seen stuff around the Warman and Wargaming, and I knew the panel was coming up.
Yeah. So in the video, and I show this isn't just a panel that's celebrating or uplifting women, just for being women in the space. Although, again, I still have problems with that, because, again, it's segregating, it's dividing. But I'd be more okay with it if it was, at the very least, celebrating, because it would be still a positive panel. Then this is not my words, this is theirs. The goal of the Women in Wargaming panel at Salute South London is to solely talk about the marginalization and negative experiences that these women and non-male genders, quote-unquote, have experienced in the space. Like, the panel is entirely a negative panel, and it, that's the entire goal of the panel.
And I think that's the key part, is that it goes back to what I said, and having like a small creator, large creator panels like that, it's different. So again, everyone knows my opinion on Arch. I make it very clear. Like, I don't know the dude personally, but I support his right to say whatever the fuck he wants. And people are not going to be happy with it, and they're going to say stupid shit, but they have no right to take away his right to say whatever the fuck he wants. But at the same time, there's going to come that people have the right to say that he's an asshole for what he said or whatever. It goes both ways.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think anyone disagrees that discourse isn't it shouldn't be
Right.
allowed or anything like that. Although,
No.
in my opinion, the discourse around Arch, I think, is completely overblown and unfair.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. I think they take it. I think the anti-Arch group takes it to the extreme, but back on point of, going towards having that large panel, okay, Luton, what has your experience been in the Warhammer 40k community? Well, it's been mostly positive, blah, 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 blah. I've had a couple of issues getting started up, whatever. I honestly don't know his story. Arch, what have your experiences? Oh, shit. In the Warhammer community. Well, funny you should ask. Many witch hunts. Many, many witch hunts. So it's just like, I think also, though, knowing what I know about Arch, again, I do not know him personally. So, massive grain of salt here. I don't think he would do that. If he were asked, what has your experience been in the Warhammer 40k community, he would probably say something along the lines of, I've had plenty of negative experiences, but here are the mostly positive experiences I've had, especially in an environment like that. I think he has the wisdom and the wherewithal to say that. Did anyone read Polygon's description of 40k? No, I saw that too. That was stupid.
I couldn't. I saw the page. It was. I couldn't do it.
Look, I'll put it this way, okay? Not this coming up August, but next August. I will have full on 2 decades into Warhammer 40k lore, gaming, stuff like that. I remember getting introduced to it. I remember who got me into it, and I remember how. I remember what got me started on the idea of that Warhammer 40k was cool and that I need to stick with it.
In September, it'll be a decade for me.
So if you're going to tell me anyone can summarize up in one article or one description what I've gone through with for 20 years, and some people even longer than me, like look at Arch, who's been in it longer. You know, there's just no way.
Yeah. I mean, aside from that, also they're full of shit on some things. Also, if you read through, it's kind of it's not written like an informative article as much as it's written from like someone talking to you, which can be a good thing, but at certain times they're like, you know, like this is totally this way. Oh my god. It's kind of annoying segments of their stuff in that descriptor. I skimmed it, so maybe it's not like that throughout, but from what I skimmed of their description of 40k, it was pretty cringe.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's just like I said, 40k is too big just to do a basic description of. Like, is it okay if I shamelessly plug for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I plan on getting back into my lore videos. For anyone who doesn't know, I've been struggling with mental health issues the past couple months. We finally got it pinpointed what was wrong with me, and it's getting treated.
That's good.
So, I plan on getting back into my lore basics videos, but understand, even covering, I'm going through and looking at some of my old ones, like, wow, I had an ego on me. Like, it's really hard to look at something like, say, the Imperial Guard or 30k, the Imperial Army, and do a 30-minute video on it. When there's just so much to it. You know, it's just so damn hard to do. Like, I couldn't imagine, by the way, to do my little bit of brown nosing, kiss assing, whatever you want to call it, I couldn't imagine doing videos like Asmo does, where, you know, it's not a basics video, it's a lore video. Mine is just a bare bones fucking minimum.
To be fair, most of my lore videos, the in a nutshells, are condensed lore for comedic and have a comedic delivery. But I do have one full length lore video that I did. It's the War in Heaven, the old ones in the Catan. It's 3 months old now. Unfortunately, it didn't get as much of a reception as I was hoping, but that video is a good example of like a really in-depth work I did. So if anyone wants to see my take on like a long form lore, really going into the nitty gritty, as it is, what I wrote in the script for that video and for the lore I had to research for that was already twice the length of the Polygon article.
Yeah, and like for me, I just plan on going through and redoing some of my videos, but I'm also going to revitalize my Versus series, which is also something that I'm going to have to ask a certain ginger friend of mine, because I am going to need an outsider's opinion on certain cases, because I can get a little bit tunnel vision.
Are you talking about Ginger Ninja?
No, I'm talking about you.
I'm not a ginger. My beard is ginger.
Bitch, that is so red on my computer. It's not funny, and I don't even have my contrast up.
And?
Your beard is redder than your cheeks. You look like a ginger Santa Claus.
Thank you.
But no, but So, like, when I do the versus videos, because it'll be stuff like, 40K versus StarCraft, 40K versus Star Wars. Actually, one that I had an interesting idea about was the Catachan Jungle Fighters versus the Predator.
Ooh, that would actually be a fight I would love to see.
That would be one, especially with Sal Marbo.
Oh, the Predator wouldn't have a shot if it was Sly.
Yeah, Sly. Sorry, I don't know why the fuck I thought Sal. Yeah, Sly Marbo. Oh my god, that would be absolutely hilarious. The plot armor. How the fuck is he not in Astartes at this point? Oh, because he's too old, but still.
I was about to say, I don't... too late.
They did that shit back in 30K.
True.
They didn't necessarily give them, they didn't make them full on Astartes, but they made them Astartes equivalent. Or Legionnaire equivalent. For anyone who...
They did the best they could.
For anyone who doesn't know also, I am a massive 30K nerd, which is probably where most of my lore will be except for the Versus videos. Because, I'm getting all 30K Legion insignias tattooed on both of my arms. All 18 of them. All 9 traitors on my right, all 9 loyalists on my left. And actually, after thinking about it, my next tattoo is going to be White Skull. But there is one tattoo I'm looking at, and I'm like, do I really want to get this tattooed on me? And hilariously, I'll bet you can guess which one it is. Out of all 18 legions, you know which one gives me the most pause to get tattooed?
Which... I'm trying to think of the most complicated one.
It has nothing to do with complexity.
Oh.
Because honestly, the White Scars is going to be pretty damn complex. I'm going to be there for a minute.
I don't know.
Ultramarines.
Real? Is it because you just don't like Ultramarines?
No, it has nothing to do with it. It looks like a fucking toilet seat.
Fair enough.
Like, it's a horseshoe. I mean, it's a horseshoe or a toilet seat. Like, come on. Like, the first one I got was Death Guard, and I am so stoked about this one. This is actually really done really well.
Hello.
And I've got my next 2 planned out. It's going to be White Scars and Thousand Suns. So, I know roughly the order I'm going to be going in. So.
Hey, guys. Sorry, I'm just trying to close some tabs here.
Are we going to hear some music that's going to seem familiar?
No. I don't think so anyway. Alright. So, I do have someone else waiting in the call. So,
Okay.
To wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to bring up in terms of the Women in Wargaming stuff, this panel?
As I said, I think it's more of, do we need panels? No. But if we have them, they could be better utilized.
Yeah.
Again, see, like, or even hell, you could have groups like, one that would be interesting would be like you and Valeric put together, which would be like,
that would turn into a debate panel very fast.
It would. It really would. But the panel would be like, this is a panel on the Iron... I don't know why I keep trying to call them fucking Iron Fist. Imperial Fists and their successors. So, like, that would be a cool panel. Like, have... Emperor's Children and their war bands, or fucking World Eaters and their war band. Those would be cool panels. But this is just pointless, as you said.
Yeah. And I stand by that. Alright, so...
I was just going to say, like you said, it segregates people, and I thought we agreed at a certain time point in America that was bad.
Oh yeah, it absolutely was. And it still is.
Yeah.
Alright, well, thank you so much for coming on, Ludus, and yeah, I appreciate your take, man.
Yeah, man.
Oh, by the way, we're doing the community's doing an Among Us game at 3 if you want to join in on that.
If I do, I will only be around for an hour or two.
That's long enough for a couple rounds.
Okay.
See you later. Alright, our next caller, a Homeless Stone. Welcome, a Homeless Stone. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. By the way, chicken strips. I just shared in the Call Line Discord links to those videos. I haven't taken any of them down, although I can't find yours for some reason. But yeah, those should all still be up. But yeah. Welcome to the open mic, my good man. So, what is your take on all this stuff?
So I'm not gonna lie, I've seen about half of your video on it, and to be fair, the opening is really all I needed. The moment that they said that this is basically about their grievances with the community, I don't need anything else. I really dislike panels like this.
God damn, I shouldn't have made it a half hour.
Right? Yeah. But I really dislike panels like this because it's nothing more than a tier, like, boo-hoo, nobody likes us, or boo-hoo, we have bad experiences. Everybody has bad experiences.
Yep.
Like, it's just beyond me. Between this, the Anita Sarkeesian crap that happened with Sargon all those years ago, it's like, stop crying, be an adult, move on with your life.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. Like, that is... oh, sorry, go ahead.
These panels, especially... and again, nothing against these women in this panel. I hope that they're all great painters. They all have a good time with the hobby. I hope. I
Careful now, man. You're walking on eggshells.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I know. But, I mean... No, I'm just being human. I like to hope that everybody has a good time, right?
Yeah.
But... these are just sad. Like, this adds nothing to the community, and it feels like people sitting up on a high horse just preaching to us. I'm sorry, I'm not here to get preached at or have a sermon. I'm here to roll dice.
Yeah, same.
And discuss. Oh, did you read about the part where that Astartes ripped that Chaos Astartes in half with a chainsword? That was badass. Like, that's what I'm here for. I'm not... People are assholes. That's life. Move on.
Exactly. And I covered it in the video, covered it here multiple times. It's this idea that the space needs to... Like, they've admitted themselves that 99% of their experience is positive. Can you name any community you've ever been in where you could describe your experience with other people as 99% of the time positive?
Not really, because fandoms are crazy.
Yeah, like, there's assholes in every fandom. Like, is where there are human beings, there will be people who don't do as you want and will not act as you expect. That's just the nature of socialization. There will always be personality types that will rebuff you. There will always be people who will push you and insult you and hate on you for stupid shit. That's never going to be fully annihilated. And the fact that these women have had such a good experience, they could describe their experience as 90% positive, is a miracle, in my opinion. Because I wouldn't describe my experience in the 40K hobby as 99% positive. I'd describe it as 90% positive, 10% bullshit. And even I would say, I'll take that. A 90% and the grade book is an A. That's a pretty good community.
Like, you compare that... Oh my god, let's just compare it to other big sci-fi properties at this day and age. You have Star Wars. Jesus Christ, that dumpster fire. And I say that as a hardcore Star Wars fan from back in the day. God, I miss my extended universe.
Oh, well, real quick. Thank you so much for the super chat, Reverend Norris. Thank you. Reverend Norris says, wanted to say that your vid on the panel was fantastic. Thank you. You hit the nail on the head and put forth your points perfectly, man. We'll listen to this later, though. Gotta find food now after a long day of work. Well, welcome home, relax, and thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. Sorry for the interruption. Go ahead.
Oh, it's all good. But yeah, you compare, like, all the big sci-fi shows and movies and properties of today are just so bogged down in this. Why are... Like, the fandoms have turned from what they once were. Like, Star Wars, before the sequels happened, everybody loved Star Wars. Sure, you'll have people debating lore here and there. Fine, I can live with that. But after Disney got involved and you started to see oh no, why are we putting real life shit into Star Wars? Like, and then when they get hit with the backlash, they're confused by it and saddened by it, and they're like, oh well, now it's 100% negative. It's like, you made the conditions for this to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're dead on about that. Like the politicization, ironically, the political activists come into spaces holding up flags of and claiming to champion diversity and making spaces more welcoming and open to people when they almost always universally have the opposite effect. Like, for example, I've never once experienced sexism or witnessed sexism in this hobby space of Warhammer. Once. I've never seen it until I saw a left-leaning pro-femmarine activist on Twitter call a female member of the Warhammer community, who told him, "I don't want female Space Marines." He called her a breeder.
Like,
These people are bringing the bad shit with them. They're not bringing any kind of like diversity. They're not bringing any kind, not real diversity. They're bringing in quotas. They're bringing in demands. They're bringing in the term gentrification is often used in a positive context. I'm going to use it in a negative one. Their idea of gentrification and like updating a space for a modern audience. This crap that they've been doing forever, it's only ever ruined communities.
yeah, and as far as the quote unquote modern audience thing goes, how has nobody figured out that quote unquote modern audiences don't spend money on those properties?
Oh, I'm pretty sure people figured it out. They just don't want to. They just ignore it because admitting it would surrender power.
Yeah, and it's just so dumb. It's just, admit you were wrong. It's not that hard. Be like, hey guys, we messed up. We took a road we shouldn't have. Here, have something we know you'll like. I'm tired of these pity parties. I'm tired of people being like, oh my god, that's this one bad thing happened to me out of my 9,000 games that I've played. I'm going to focus on the bad.
Yeah, and that's silly. And this big fucking hullabaloo. And again, like, the segregation mindset of like a panel like this, like the politicking and the activist types, they're the ones who bring in panels like this, right? Would you agree that this panel is a segregating force in the hobby world?
Yes, I would say that typically. Now, if it wasn't for the framing that they did with the whole pity party, more or less, of it all, I would be more inclined to say no, because I can understand having a women's perspective on, like, at least the painting and actual hobbying.
Yeah.
But if you're going to use that panel and that time to woe is me, I'm just going to get up and leave. You're not adding anything to the conversation. You're not adding anything to the hobby.
And they're also painting the hobby and the people in it with the brush of what they admit to be only the 1%.
Right? It's like the Gamergate thing all over again, which, God forbid I bring that up, right? Where like I have a million examples of gamers raising money and just doing all these charitable things, but you get the 3 asshole 14-year-olds on the Halo 3 lobby shouting expletives and slurs at you for a good 30 minutes during the game, and all of a sudden the entire community is those 3 people.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm tired of it. Call out the assholes, but don't try and paint the entire community as those assholes.
Yeah, I agree, and that's one of my many issues with the panel. And I said earlier with someone else, I would still be a little bit negative with a all women's panel, even if they were highlighting positives and stuff like that, because for me, I still don't like that element where it's like, okay, we're now separating people into these groups, like women, men. But Ludus had a good like counter for that. Is like, what if it was just like an up and comers panel, and there was several of these women on it, but there's also male content creators. There's also racially diverse content creators. I don't think there should be a quota. It should just be like, hey, here's some people we find interesting. Let's pull them in for a panel, and
Yeah.
not like pick and choose. I think that'd be
No,
better than doing an all women's panel.
Yes, and that is, I can completely understand that, and I do agree. It make my point is that I understand why they would have a women's panel, and while I may not 100% agree with it, I can understand it.
Right. And I think, yeah, that's where I could be too.
Yeah, but the moment that they turned it into, again, the pity party, it's like, well, now what? Now what? What? Like, I paid money to come to this convention to learn about painting, maybe play a few games, not get preached at.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. That's why a lot of like the escapist spaces are starting to not feel like that anymore. Because it's a preaching ground. It's a soapbox.
Yeah, like stop using fandoms to try and score your political. It's Reddit. It's Reddit in real life. They're trying to win internet points in real life.
Yeah,
And it is so dumb.
I agree.
Now, and like you said, if this panel was more like up and comers, say 100K to like maybe 75K YouTube followers or what have you, around in that, like, it's, hey, these are people that we think are cool. We think their channels can use a boost. Here you go. But because, I mean, let's just look at some of the female tubers in the Warhammer space. The biggest one I know of for sure is like Discourse Minis and a couple other. I'm trying to draw a blank right now. God.
There's Discourse Minis. I mean, Hattie, Midwinter Minis is mostly run by Guy, but Hattie, for example, the personality that that was being showcased here, I'd consider her her own personality. She also has like her own Instagram and stuff like that. I'd put her as her own personality as well, and as an up and comer as well.
Right? So like, and the thing is, like, Discourse Minis is right there for GW to just smack. She's a white woman and she's Irish. You know how the English are. But
That's a good one.
if anybody would have a negative experience, right? But but no, and her experiences, all she talks about is, no, GW is fucking up. She's not coming after the fans because she gets it. She's a fan.
Yeah.
It's not even GW now. Like, I think that's the worst part. Is like the fandom used to be able to unite and be like, oh yeah, GW is an asshole. Now it's like, yeah, GW is an asshole. Also, we're all assholes. And I don't like that.
I don't like it either. And that's, why we have these discussions, and hopefully while we're, this is why talking about these things in this format and like, hopefully making it clear, like that's why I like my open mics is it's not just, me sitting here telling everybody like, hey, here's this thing, this is my opinion. And, I like actually having the community come in and talk about it. That way I can very freely much share like these streams and stuff and go like, look, here's what not just me, but like large swaths of people think about like women in wargaming panels, what people think about GW saying, certain groups are welcome, certain groups are not, like or price gouging and people feeling like they can't afford the hobby, stuff like that. Like these conversations, I think, help contribute in a positive way to us voicing our issues and being able to kind of come up with solutions or come up with ways, at the very least, to vent our issues.
Yeah. Like, I'm sad because I've joined this hobby in about at the tail end of 2019. So like 8th edition was just closing out. And like the community was good. I started playing, I had a good time, and then out of nowhere, I feel like Chicken Little with the sky falling because of all this.
I have not heard that reference in a long time, but yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah. like I want people to be able, like, my FLGS, my friendly local gaming store, here where I live. It has a crap ton of military veterans who play the game. I can go there and play with people from Air Force, Marines, Navy, Army, what have you. My favorite part about it, their wives play. Their wives come in and will play, and they are just as much an asshole as their husbands are when it comes to whoever they're playing.
Yeah, because they're not sensitive, and
Exactly.
they're like actual gamers who recognize a space for what it is and are mature enough to understand in social spaces you're not going to get 100% positivity and acceptance. There will be, some shit talking and people, treating you rudely. The best thing you can do is strike back, but not strike back in the sense of like cancelization and trying to ruin lives. No, just hit them back with like more your own shit talking. Hit them back with your own competitiveness, and if anything, they'll walk away respecting you.
Yeah, like if I face it, like I'm a Custodes player. I have no qualms about admitting this. But like I play a Tau player, and I'm like, oh, you filthy fish communist, and they're like, oh yeah, you banana hammock wearing freak. Like I want that.
Yeah, and that's fun. And that is 40K. That is the community that we have had for decades. And they would call, and would you describe those interactions as you being oppressed, or the community being like a bunch of like sexist, misogynistic, racist bigots that these kind of panels push? Or would you say that is just part of the culture?
I think it's just part of the culture. I mean, the Act Man had it perfect in one of his videos about trash talking. Yeah, sure, it's a big thing in video games, but I mean, trash talking is just part of human nature.
Yeah, it's part of competition.
Yeah, like as long as each person understands that it's all banter, it's all for the game, it's all because of the love of the game, nobody's actually trying to be a dickhead to you, then okay, cool, continue on, have a good time, call each other whatever the hell you want.
Amen.
I'm tired of all this negative Nancy bullshit going on with this community. Like between you, Arch, and a couple others, like I see you guys not really cowtailing to this stuff, and I'm really happy for that.
Well, according to Smiley Maniac, and did in a little bit with Dead Men Walking. According to them, I was stepping on eggshells with my video on this topic and kowtowing to it a little bit. Apparently,
well, I didn't see that.
I didn't think that either. So
I don't know. I think they could just be reading your bias a little bit, because I believe you did say that you do like midwinter meanies.
And and that's what I've been trying to explain to people. That is why I was less verbose than I might normally be. Is I'm a fan of Hattie. I'm a fan of Midwinter Minis. For me, that was more of why I went softer than I might normally have gone. Now, granted, my preamble at the beginning was a little long and might have come off as like I was walking on eggshells, but that's actually more because, again, I like Midwinter Minis, and B, because I wasn't scripted. I ramble when I'm not scripted.
Yeah, you're like, here are my biases right here up front.
Yeah.
And that's what I took away from it. But if others were seeing that as walking on eggshells, I disagree. It's like if, God forbid, okay, say you make a video on Henry Cavill because his goddamn 40K show on Amazon sucks ass. Like, I don't think I think you'll be like, Henry Cavill, you done fucked up, buddy. Like I don't see you going as hard on him as, say, like the Witcher producers, for what they did.
Yeah, that's actually a fair comparison, because I do like, as a personality, obviously I don't know him, but I like Henry Cavill, and I probably would go soft. It depends on like how the show went, though. Like if the show was a dead bastardization, I don't care who you are, I'm going on. But if it's more like I felt like things were like being forcibly mandated, and it was like stuff he couldn't help but add, or there were small mistakes here and there, I'd be soft on it.
A 6 out of 10 is more passable than a 1 out of 10.
Yes.
Okay, like I'll take a 6 out of 10 from Henry Cavill on Warhammer. Fine, at least we got something.
Indeed.
But, all right. Well, that's a lot of what I had. In all honesty,
All right,
I
that's
see
fine.
that there are others.
All right, we got
and I
3 in
don't
the
wanna
waiting.
take too much time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a good conversation. I hope chat was entertained a little bit.
I have no doubt.
Alrighty. You have a good one, my friend. I shall be in the chat.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the open mic. All right, so Tang is next, but I'm gonna pull in Xerus first because Tang did get a chance earlier. Xerus, can you hear me? Hello. I warn you, Xerus, if you're on Android, you might not be able to hear or talk. No, I hear you. I hear feedback. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was a little distracted watching the stream, which is a couple of minutes behind of what's actually happening, apparently.
Yep, stream delay.
Yeah, as usual. Yeah, I was just catching up. Something I just wanted to, kind of go over. I don't know, is it okay if I tell a small story, just kind of help get my point across here?
Sure.
Alright, well, I kind of wanted to just mention, my story to an extent. Also, I hope my audio quality isn't horrible, because the internet connection in this part of the house is shite.
No, it's not horrible.
Alright, that's good. So I just wanted to, I suppose, make a point where I'm kind of coming from, and, where my views are at, because they have definitely changed over time. But essentially, I've been in the hobby for a good 7 years. Mind you, 5 of those years were, pure lore and, all that stuff.
Hello?
Sorry, I was interrupted for a second there.
That's okay.
But yeah, so my interaction when I got into it, mind you, this is from the point of view of a 12-year-old. This is back when I was still a little, younger and naive. But essentially how things started is, I, start where everyone else starts when they hear about Warhammer. What started me initially was, funnily enough, the Freeblade multiplayer? No, mobile game. That got me started in Warhammer, weirdly enough. I didn't even know what Warhammer was. So, when I, went out to YouTube and was like, right, Warhammer 40,000, and then hey, this is cool. And, started with Arch, Luton, all of everything, binge watched, everything's like, this is cool. And then, like with everyone else, you start joining, all the little online communities and stuff. But now the problem with me is, okay, first of all, yes, younger, more naive, a bit of a lefty back then, I will fully admit. But the main problem with me and a hobby at the moment, well, since then to this day, is where I live. Not even mentioning, this is South Africa, stuff like that is niche as hell. But also, I specifically live in a town where that kind of stuff is not at all even remotely known, let alone supported here. The nearest hobby shop is a good 600 kilometers away from me. That's how bad it is. And it's not like it's a small town. It's a shit town, but it's not small. So I never had that, and to this day I still have not had that physical interaction like everyone else gets. So my interaction with Warhammer and its community has been 100% online, with all the usual grifts and grabs. And of course, you know, starting out in my younger years, I was, of course, you know, like I mentioned in the chat, you know, one of those, I forget what her name is, but as one of the people in the chat said, lefty creeps. You know, one of those.
You didn't call the women women breeders, did you?
Thankfully, not that bad. No.
Alright, you're better than most so far.
Yes. But yeah, definitely the usual, literally pink-haired individual. Which I will say immediately, I am glad that I matured as I matured. You know, not just physically matured, but emotionally and mentally matured from since then. Holy crap, looking back at you. I think most people get this, but you look back at your younger self and it's like, holy shit, I used to be that.
Yeah, it's pretty normal.
But yeah, I mean, this is the thing I'm getting into a lot more recently. Especially, I've been watching Northern Exile's videos a lot, especially on his hobby nightmares. The one thing that this is where I feel, you know, a proper outcast of everything, is I never had that. My only and sole interaction with this hobby and the people and the community of Warhammer is online. You know, Twitter, Reddit. Who remembers Amino app? Discord, Facebook, all these places. But of course, you know, it didn't particularly end well. You know, I ended up banned from most of the places, as you do. But yeah, it's just something that you said earlier, where you've mainly gotten positives. In my experience, I've mainly gotten negatives. Aside from, you know, the handful here and there. I mean, your community is fucking epic. Shout out to everyone in that Discord. Some other YouTuber Discords, I don't know. Arches is pretty neutral, I'll tell you that. But
I will point this out. The thing is, when it comes to like experiencing negatives, like that's perfectly normal. I mean, coming up with positives and stuff. Even in my own community, there's, you know, been some negative occurrences, and that's been with pretty much everybody. Like, everybody has had a bad day or a bad experience, even in my community. But the reason my community it feels more positive most of the time is because it's a smaller knit community. Everybody pretty much knows each other by name at this point. Everybody, you know, has talked to pretty much everybody who's active on a regular basis. The benefit, and I would say that is where most people should be aiming to have, is not be part of like these big swathing groups to experience the best, because you're going to actually experience the most amount of pushback because there's so many different personalities to fight with. I think having a smaller community and finding smaller groups to associate with in regards to your hobby space and the like is going to be much better in the long run for like your enjoyment in the hobby. And I'm assuming most of your negative experiences have been in spaces where it's either fairly open or the community's been fairly large.
yeah, I mean, primary experiences with Warhammer in the early years was on Amino app, which was and is still a very niche, you know, shitty app. to be blunt. It's like, imagine every social media app blended into one with all the communities and negatives to go with it. So not particularly big, no, still niche, but very, I suppose, open. Also doesn't help that, you know, the staff members were teenagers going through fucking puberty, so they had their own opinions on things. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that's just after, you know, 7 years of that going on, you struggle to, you know, stick with what you think you love. Now, of course, don't get me wrong, I love this hobby to bits, but when you're seeing stuff like what you've covered lately on a nigh daily basis, you start getting exhausted. You start, you know, not wanting to be part of the open, wider community. You specifically look out for, you know, smaller stuff like you guys or pretty much anyone else that isn't a mainline personality. I mean, hell, my friend group literally consists of me and 2 other people from 2 different countries. That is it. That's just, I don't know, I just can't do wider stuff anymore because it's either politics or, you know, the hypocritical bullying, or it's and I just lost my train of thought. Nice. You gotta love ADHD.
No, but I think I understand where you were
But
going with it, though.
you get my point, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand the exhaustion,
Yeah.
and trust me, sometimes it's hard for me to associate with the wider Warhammer community. I know, like, I avoid the community on, like, the larger platforms. Like, I have a Twitter, and I do have a specific sect of the Twitter community that's apolitical to more right-leaning. I interact with them, but outside of, like, I don't go on Reddit and talk about Warhammer and go to the Warhammer groups on that. I don't go on Facebook on the Facebook groups. I barely touch the Twitter one, as I said. Honestly, the only social media that's like an open one with like the wider community I interact with, it's on Instagram. And even then, my DMs are not open, and I only really ever just post pictures of like my minis and stuff like that over there. Yeah, so I don't really do much of like the wider community or larger groups myself because of exactly what you're experiencing. And I wish I could say like there's an easy fix for it. I'd say since your interactions are universally online, yeah, either just look around. You could possibly start your own community with the friends you have, and maybe they have friends of a friends of a friends who might want to join in like a private Discord or something like that. And that way you can have like a bit of a central unit that can find the positivity in what you used to enjoy. But if you don't really feel that's as much tenable, I'd say maybe just disassociate from the community and just visit it from time to time. You still enjoy miniature painting, I assume.
No, of course, that's never gonna go away. It's just the community itself that I'm just done with. Again, on that topic, we are moving. Thankfully enough, we're getting out of this shithole of a town. And we are moving to somewhere closer to more, I suppose, Warhammer populated areas. The biggest Warhammer, okay, well, the place you'll find the most Warhammer stuff is in Cape Town, and we're moving to somewhere that's about 200.
Don't be too specific. I don't want you to dox yourself.
Fair enough. I don't even know. I don't know myself. I just know we're moving somewhere. But point being, I'm gonna be closer to actually, instead of like a 6-7 hour drive to the nearest hobby store, it's an hour and a half, 2 hour drive to the nearest hobby store. And it's a big, supported hobby. Two of them, actually. There's two of them down there. With, so I am gonna get the opportunity to experience the in-person side of the hobby, which is universally considerably better than the online side. Holy shit. I think that goes without saying.
Much, because the thing is that goes with like all communities, right? Like when you interact with people in
most.
person, I'd say the vast majority. When you interact with people in person, people are more inclined to be respectful, to be amenable, and usually the personality types that are willing to meet people in person are not the type to be as forwardly aggressive and activist types, right? Like, they aren't going to do in-person stuff because none of them would get away with acting and behaving as they do online. Half of them would be in the hospital by the end of the day. So the people you're going to meet are going to be people who are so passionate about what Warhammer is and about the community aspect of it that you're very seldom going to find terrible people in person. Now, you might get unlucky and a few of them might be that type. They, certainly there are crazies who aren't afraid to come out in public, but they're going to be the minority most of the time. The people you're going to encounter are going to be people that you will probably and likely get to be able to call friends. And I certainly encourage you to spread your wings in that regard. It might be kind of awkward at first. I think it is for most people when you go to like your first tournament, or even if it's not a tournament, just like a small time like event. It might be a little awkward at first, but just kind of ease your way in, introduce yourself, say hi, my name is, and get to talking about the hobby and see who you click with. And I think you'll really, really feel differently about the community once you get those in-person interactions.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree 100% with that. It also helps that, over the years, and yeah, over the years I have, matured and, I suppose, evolved in terms of communication. I mean, hell, in the past year alone, I've chilled out a bit more. And that's because I've been able to get all my, wazzy, nuts to the balls to the walls energy out. Because with the bike, that's a great form of therapy. My bike is my therapist, essentially. And being able to get that out of your system, for one, helps a million. It also, funnily enough, it's a way for me to meditate. I mean, 2 days ago, I literally just went on the freeway and just sat there for a good couple of minutes. Okay, well, not in the middle of the road, obviously, driving like a normal person. And just, meditating. So, in terms of, getting to know people, I think it's gonna be easier. But it is definitely something that a lot of, especially introverted and slightly autistic people have an issue with, is meeting new people. Especially if you're someone like me, who's mainly, basically, I'm not even talking online, but my main interaction with people has been very negative since school to today. And that's mainly because of this town, first of all. But also, it's just, sometimes you just don't click with other people. I mean, hell, the first primary school I went to literally wanted to put me on Ritalin because I was too good at doing my schoolwork.
I'm gonna have to cut you off, Xerus. We're kind of steering off topic, and I got other people waiting in the call, man.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
I appreciate you, coming on and giving, your thoughts and stuff. And yeah, I really hope the in-person stuff leads to you having a more positive experience with the community.
Now, the last thing I would like to say, though, is for those of you that struggle with all this, just know that after a while it gets easier, it gets better. There is the light at the end of the tunnel, and yeah, I mean, coming out of shell every now and then isn't actually that bad.
Yeah, and I can say this from personal experience: you definitely sound like you've matured from a few years back. So I'm happy to see that.
All right, well, enjoy the rest of your day. It would appear that I've missed the lunar eclipse. That's unfortunate, but that's quite alright.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, enjoy your day further, hey?
Yeah, you too, man. Thank you for coming on.
Anyway, cheers.
Cheers. It's good to see the youngins grow up. I really do hope he has a better time with folks. Alright. Dang, welcome back.
Hello.
Hello.
Right. So, first I want to say I may have missed some of the parts, so if I start repeating something that you already talked about, just stop me.
Okay.
I think I had an epiphany about the whole reason why this is happening. Why the whole, well, let's call it representation thing and women in Warhammer stuff. Why are people doing that? And it's basically a war against escapism. It was a war against escapism when it started, and it has been going on in different forms in different medias. Because people that hate escapism are the one that want to control you, and the only way they can control you is they want to keep you in the real world where they think they have power over you. And if you escape into somewhere else where, let's just say, back in the day when there was like nerds, like the proper nerds back in the 80s, 90s, stuff like that. Like you were called a nerd, and you were, well, marginalized. Let's just call it that. And you didn't really care because you had somewhere to escape to where you weren't marginalized.
Right.
And that's why people started liking hobbies, started liking D&D and other stuff, because they saw that it was a way for them, even if they were marginalized, even if they experienced anything bad, they were able to escape from it, basically. Doesn't matter what it was. They weren't feeling like they were lesser or oppressed or, I don't know, any bad thing. And it's also very insidious the way they're trying to destroy escapism in any form, because they're saying they're doing it for the marginalized, but they are making people, forcing people to feel marginalized. Like, oh, you cannot escape from what makes you feel bad, you need to keep feeling bad.
I mean, I've said this in the past, not just on this. I don't think I've said it yet in this stream. But I've said it in past open mics. I've said it in some videos. The reason that the political ideologues and activists do these things, the reason they do it, yes, you're 100% correct, is they are trying to destroy escapism. The reason for that is because they have learned, just by paying attention, that the people that they once would stand on a soapbox and force to watch the news or the latest movie or the latest TV show, and they would riddle politics in with that, those people are becoming more and more disconnected from the traditional methods they would preach at people, and that they would brainwash them and force them to consume their ideology and convert them to their ways, to make them voters for their side of the fence. They have paid attention, and they've realized that they've lost so much eyes on that stuff, so they've moved the fence. They've shifted the goalpost to where they know eyes and ears are going to be. And the most eyes and ears, the vast majority of people, are in escapist areas, such as tabletop gaming, such as video games, such as online personalities and video content creation. They have paid attention, and yeah, you're right, it's very sinister, but they've strategically shifted to now occupying our spaces so they can continue to preach their ways. And yes, it's a two-part scheme. It's a two-part scheme. They want to destroy escapism, so you're forced to become an activist, or you're used as an example as to why the activist should exist. So they turn you into a two-part pawn. But the other part of it is not just destroying escapism, it's supplanting it and replacing it with a soapbox from which they can espouse their views, and again, gain new followers, gain new cultists for their ideologies and activism that they don't even really believe in, mind you. They just need loyalists to do as they say. It is a two-part manipulative social control that they're performing. If they allow escapism to exist in its traditional form, that's exactly what it'll be. We will be escaping their control, their net, their sphere of influence, and they don't want that to. They refuse to allow that to be the case. So that's why they're invading our spaces.
Yeah, but I don't think when you say, "Oh, they want to create soapboxes," I'm not sure they want to create soapboxes, because even if they don't, if they're not able to preach to us anything, it's the fact that they do not want to make us change our ways. They want to make us basically not forget. Not. How can I say it? If you're going to do anything, you need to remain yourself, basically. That's why I need to say, oh, you are marginalized, so you need to remain marginalized in the community. You need to always be marginalized. It's more of a status quo. And actually, I'm going to give you an example of the kind of people. I think I have the perfect representation of what kinds of people do that. It's the... Well, back in the day, you remember the friends of the popular guy? The people that are always in his shadow, always like basically the underling.
The toadies?
Yes. They weren't enough, and they didn't have enough charisma or brains or strength to be the leader, but they were basically using the leader to gain the prestige of the others. And that's why people that were basically sports leaders, all the people that were leading these groups, after a while, they basically started to see the benefit of escapism, because they, for one or another reason, they started getting hard times in their life, and they found it. Oh, actually, if you do something that gets you away from that, it's actually good. But the people that were behind them, that were just using them, the only thing that they had was the status of an underling. And now they lost that because their boss now became the nerd they were repressing. And now they have no status. That was their escapism. They were living in a fantasy where they were the boss of the peasants, and they were the lords and ladies. And now because this escapism is being taken from them, now they're trying to basically destroy everyone else's escapism, because, you know, they feel lesser, I guess.
I think I would agree that's what, like, the common foot soldier amongst them is like. Maybe not to an exactity. I think you're a little too specific. But I think that is what the common, like, activist individual is. But what I was saying earlier was the minds behind the activists, the ones that already twisted and mired them into foot soldiers. The people behind them, to use a dramatic term, the Illuminati, if you will, of that mindset, the people at the top of that tree, they are doing that. They are making those toadies into their soldiers and trying to make them into fighters for their cause, for, again, to remove escapism, kill it, so people can't escape their words, their ideology, their activism, their commanding presence. They're trying, and then, again, supplanting that escapism with now a fresh soapbox. But if you don't like that term, I can also use a new speakerphone from which they can, demand people vote and conform to their views. Or if you don't, they can use you as a pawn to point at and say, look at the evil that we're fighting, join us, and convince the small-minded people who can't think critically for themselves, and are also those toady types, to further fall into their ideology. So that's who I'm talking about when I say, like, it's not the small fry that we deal with on a daily basis. You and I will never exchange a digital conversation with those sinister people at the top of that chain that are manipulating people with what they know is low-hanging fruit and what is easy to manipulate people with, which is their emotions. They're taking like, oh, do you want to help people? Yeah, I want to help people. Do you want to, bring people who feel weak and pathetic and downtrodden, and do you want to lift them up? Yes. Well, this is how you do it. And then they tell them, oh, you gotta bully, harass, send death threats to people who to who we're telling you is the perpetrator of that victimhood, and we're gonna tell you to do this, we're gonna tell you to do that. All of that is not something they believe in. They are just using like diversity, representation. They're using these buzzwords and these buzz ideas, and they're convincing naive, easily malleable, and pliable people who are natural toadies, like you put it yourself, who want to follow, who want to fall in with a new boss, if you will. And they tell you, all right, you will be a hero, you will be a champion if you do this. But that their goal, they don't really care about the social aspect. They don't care about any of that. What they care about is votes.
Control, yeah.
Control.
Maybe even. Again, I would argue that the toads are the ones on the top, but
I wouldn't.
I guess that would be a point of contention. Just because if you're a leader, if you were let's say the jock made decisions and interacted and thought of in the real world. So he had to react of real world circumstances, and he had to adapt. That's why he was the leader. He was always trying to basically be at the top of the social chain. But to do that, you need to understand the social chain. The ones below him, they only want to. They weren't good enough to use the leadership, and that's why they're usually when we see people that are of these Illuminati that you say, that's why they don't show themselves. That's why they stay in the shadows, because they are not good enough to be the ones to lead. That's why they need to put these facades in front of them. Oh, we do this for this and for that. That's why they're hiding, because they want to be, let's say, they're the weak ones that want to be on top. It's not exactly conscious. I think that's what their subconscious desires are. It's basically they've created this world where, oh, I am the smartest one. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect, basically. It's the idiot thinking that he's the smartest one.
Right. I'd say again, I see it more as I agree that the toadies want to be at the top, but I think that's like the point I want to emphasize. They want to be on the top. That's their goal, is to become the top, and they are being teased by the people who are up there. Like, oh yeah, you could totally get up here. You just got to do this, this, and this, and this. Like, they're being led along. I agree that that's like a desire they have, but I don't think they're at the top. They're being controlled by more socially savvy and more manipulative psychopaths, to be quite frank, who are using them as a tool and will cast them aside or turn them into the new pawn of which to point at and like look at like the horrible people around you. And that's why these ideologues and activists are so easily turn on each other, because they also are competing with each other to get to that top that we're talking about. You know, they do want to climb the social ladder, but they're doing it in a very sinister, evil way.
Yeah. Oh, it's different opinions, I guess.
When you think about it, the people at the top are kind of geniuses in that sense, because they've created the perfect like foot soldier army. Like, the foot soldier army is just full of arrogant, narcissistic sociopaths that are absolutely obsessed with climbing the social ladder, and are willing to do like horrible and evil things. And again, I agree, it's subconscious. I'm not saying like they're having like direct debates about who will be leading the group now, but it's this subconscious desire to be the champion, if you will, to be the most recognized.
The only comment I would say for this is, don't attribute to intelligence what can easily be. Don't attribute to planning what can easily be explained by stupidity. They don't need to be smart to do what they do. It's just they need to basically use the right words, and they just stumble. Well, I wouldn't say stumbled upon them, but that's why they're just repeating the same thing over and over again. Because if they were actually smart, they would create a new way to approach, and that way we couldn't see it from 15 miles away. But because they're just stumbled upon a thing that works out of sheer trial and error, I would argue, and that's why they're just repeating the same thing again and again and again and again. If they were actually smart, they would change their tactics. That's my argument. It's because they're just repeating themselves. Basically, you can write a book about how they try to do something.
I would counter by saying, yeah, you're correct. All they have done is repeat themselves. But I would also point out, have you seen how much they have actually succeeded in taking over industries? I mean, Hollywood to this day is still putting out woke projects and movies, despite failure after failure after box office bomb after box office bomb. Same with the video game industry. Woke, politically charged content in video game after video game after video game that has caused so many failures or caused so much controversy that has hurt sales. Again, they continue to push it and push it and push it. Now, where we differ is you think it's stupidity. I think it's a nefarious scheme hidden as stupidity. And I think they're relying on intelligent and carefully thought people like yourself to attribute it as stupidity so they can play it off.
Well, it's a nefarious scheme, but it's not let's say I think it's not the nefarious scheme you think. It's something different, but it is there. There is a nefarious scheme. It may just be different from what you think it is. Let's just say that. But let's not go into that because that's going on topic. We're going off topic again. Actually, I had the perfect analogy of when I heard that video of women in wargaming. It was like I was rereading a book for the 15th time. It's like, the first few pages, and I already know what's gonna happen in half the book. That's the feeling they gave me. It's like, there we go. So here this, and now I see where it's going because I've seen it like 15 times.
Yeah, and I'd agree. It's being seen over and over again. And again, that goes back to your point of like they keep trying the same thing over and over and over again. The sad thing is though is I can't argue that they've gotten results by just beating the same bush over and over and over and over and over and over again.
And one of the things that I would say is maybe one of our tactics that is wrong is when we see them doing that. One of the best things we can do is one of the things that we got scolded when we were children. So we basically go and ask, why? Tell me why.
You got scolded for asking why.
And when they say, just keep asking why. Yeah, and at one point they're gonna say, I don't know, and there you can get them.
I know. I'll try that next time I see the Femmarine debate. That might be fun.
Oh, it's like, we want representation. Why? Because we want more women in. Why? It's like, give me why. Tell me why. Explain yourself.
In a way that makes sense, logically, not through your whatever you call it.
Yeah, and also, that way, you just seem like the innocent little person that just wants to know more. And everyone else that is ignorant would be on your side because they're also ignorant. And they also want to know why. And when they hear why, they're going to say, what the hell is this?
Insanity.
Yes. Don't tell them to shut up. Encourage them to speak. Because when they speak, they dig it on a hole.
I don't know. I've never told these types to shut up. I constantly get told by them to shut up and stop being a bigot. But
Yeah.
I
thing is-
find that it annoys them when I don't.
Don't give them anything, any argument, and just ask it. Okay, why? Just find something and ask why, and explain themselves. And if they go into circular, just say, okay, so let's just say, for example, oh, we want representation. Why? Because representation is good. Okay, why representation is good? Because we say so. Okay, why do you say so? Well, because we want representation. It's like, okay. Do you see where this is going?
Internal circle of why.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
It's a fair point.
Yeah, that's it basically.
Okay.
Uh,
I don't know. I'll
it
have
was-
to try it next
yeah.
time for sure.
oh yeah, definitely just sit there. It's like, why?
Well, thank you for coming back on. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Tony.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, have a good one.
Have a
All right. And another revisitor, Afiel. Hello?
Ahoy.
Oi, hoi.
Yeah, because I talked to some friends after I was on your stream, and one of my friends reminded me on something that was like a long, long time ago. And back then we had some issues actually with a player, and he was, let's say just really frankly, he was super right-leaning in his political views. And I talked to my buddy, and he said, just remember back when we had like the thing when everyone was like, yeah, but his family is like, and to be honest, his family, well, that you would actually call a Nazi family. They were like, everyone beside us is the evil ones and stuff like that, yeah. And back then there was like the guys in the hobby were like, yeah, you wanna ostracize him or talk to him, and our local store boss was like, no, we talk to him and we see what's going on. And then after like time and time we were talking and engaging with him, and our local store leader was telling us something that happened when I was really young. I was 16 or 17, and he explained to us, with logic and compassion you will reach far more people than with hate and when you ostracize them. And I talked to my friend, and he actually has still contact with him, and he's now living on the outside of the town, and he's married to a woman from Southern America. Like the opposite of everything that was explained. And it's just like all these people's they are allergic to logic and compassion, and to be honest, most of the time they run in circles with the explanations.
Oh yeah.
And
Absolutely.
you that's just like my predecessor said, it's just like the why questions, but also sometimes it's a give me a logical reason why. And these people they are allergic to logic, and one of the most fucked up things, they are allergic to compassion. When you say someone is from a troubled background, he comes to the community, what's the reaction of like the activist type? Ostracize him. What's the humane way of doing it? Let's engage with the person and see what's the issue. And sometimes you can help someone in that situation to get rid of the thing that makes his life miserable. And that's actually the stuff that's like the Warhammer community for me personally. It's like a place where you go when you have issues, when you want to get rid of like the stuff that drags you down, and also the community that engages with you and helps you find a better way.
Yeah, that's what it's been like for me as well, and that's been the upside with having Warhammer be a niche hobby and community. Has always been that element, that close-knit community. I won't quite go as far as to say family. I mean, you might get like a familial kind of vibe if you like have a specific hobby shop and group and like community. It's a community within a community that you set up.
Let's just say it's easy in the Warhammer community to find friends for lifetime.
Oh yeah, absolutely. and it's one of the best parts about it. It's what makes it, in many ways, more appealing and more impassioned to be in than something like video games or something, or more digital-based communities like film, TV, movies. Like, with a tabletop hobby like this, I mean, as it is, the most digital it's ever been is nowadays with, like, tabletop sim. But most people still prefer to go to shops, play with minis that they've hand-painted. And even with the internet group I have, a lot of them have, I almost use the term fantasized, I don't know if that's the right term. But a lot of them have, very much wanted to meet up IRL at some point and play games and interact. Like, that's the mentality very much with this niche community, is wanting that in-person human interaction, and that's kind of what makes tabletop games in particular so attractive to people like you and myself.
To be honest, we had some like awkward situations sometimes in our store, but it was most of the time more like a funny kind of awkward, because we had like back then we had a guy, and there was like a new girl in the club. And he was super introverted, she was super introverted, but they both liked each other. So you can go figure out for yourself how awkward the coming together of those two was.
I'm sure it took forever.
Yeah, it was like this typical, oh God, please just kiss each other moment from like a TV show where okay, those two are destined to be together, but they can't figure it out for like 7 seasons.
Yeah, I've bore witness to a fair few of those myself.
It was just like it was actually infuriating at the end of all that story. It's like
for fuck's sake, would you fuck already?
Yeah, it was a kind of
to
something
put it
like
in a more Yankee shenanigans way.
Yankee nonsense is the term you search. No, it's just not that bad. But yeah, the thing about these people is like, oh, the community is so bad. Oh, everyone is so nasty. Nah, not really.
Yeah. And I've experienced
it's the
pure
thing,
positivity of this hobby.
It's the thing like with the Moby Dick book, when Captain Ahab was hunting for the white whale and for so long that he didn't realize that he actually became some kind of monster himself.
Yeah. Actually, that's a perfect analogy for these people.
They are like on a permanent witch hunt.
An eternal crusade, if you will.
Yeah, but not the funny kind of.
Uh-huh. A depressing kind to witness.
To be honest, I know some... That's also the same thing when people are like, people who like Black Templars and Death Corps are Nazis. What? That's also a train of thought that I never get where that one was coming from.
Well, then call me Heil Hitler, because I love me my Black Templars.
Mm-hmm. Or is it because some of the Black Templars have German names? That would be the weirdest way to, like, oh, that one sounds a little bit German, huh? That must be a Nazi Marine. But to be fair, it wouldn't surprise me if someone makes actually like a way of thinking is like that. Oh yeah, that's the reason why.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few of those kind of thinkers, if you want to call them thinkers.
Mental gymnastics.
It's so horrifying sometimes.
When someone explains something to you and in the end you think to yourself, huh? Well, where did that idea come from? Just like when someone is so like mentally disturbed that you don't know actually the way how when where what was the way you arrived at that conclusion.
Mental insanity.
Maybe sometimes I think they take the wrong stuff. Yeah.
And I agree. And it shows what they're prioritizing, by the way. Like, an actual fan and hobbyist is like, oh my god, the Black Templars, Sigismund, the the troublemakers from the Imperial Fist, one of the only chapters that's actually hyper religious. You know, that's what a fan sees. What a political activist who never had any interest in the hobby to begin with. That's you bad racist.
But to be honest, if they would at least put some effort inside that one, because they could try to mimic that major from the Helsing Ultimate anime.
True.
Would at least be a little bit fun.
Yeah, at least be enjoyable. Well,
but yeah.
Did you have anything else you want to bring up?
No, not really.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on yet again, man, and I appreciate you being on today.
Yeah, have a good night.
Yeah, have a good one. All right, guys. That was my last set of callers that are there. I will, for anyone who hasn't had the opportunity and would like to come on and voice their take and opinions, I'll share the link real quick here, and I'll read through the chat and wait for a few minutes, and then I got some closing things I want to say, and yeah, then we'll wrap up. We've had some great callers today, by the way. Like, some great conversations. I've really enjoyed getting people's takes and opinions and having the conversations that we've had. I feel like it's been very constructive. Excuse me. Telcrate. It is not the first that I have heard such stories happening from a wargaming community. It even happened with a local member who was pretty extreme. I mean, yeah, it's not an old tale, that's for sure. Yeah, that's still one of the... I remember the first time I heard that, I thought it was a joke. Like, when I first saw online someone say, like, orcs are supposed to be, like, representation of black people, and then they went on to explain it in, like, a tweet thread, and this was someone who unironically believed it, too. This was, like, a Twitterite, like, a left-leaning activist. And they described it as, you know, orcs are supposed to be, like, a bad representation of black people, and it's representing black people because it's like they're savages and they're barbarians and they are stupid. And I'm like, and these are things that you think represent black people, and because of that, somehow orcs are black people. Yeah. So you think black people are savages that are dumb? No. Also, then they don't represent them. Yes, they do! Okay, but no one, but apparently you, thinks black people are savages. You're a bigot! Okay. Oh, that was always so fucking nuts. First time I saw that, I was just like, what the fuck am I witnessing? Starship Troopers is about fascism. To be fair, there are fascistic elements of it, but it's not about that. It's not. No, it's. I can understand a level of it, but not purely. No. It's authoritarianism, but fascism is a little bit more specific. Not to these people. These people throw out fascist like it's candy. It's like, you sat on the toilet. Fascist. What? You're supposed to stand. Yes, orc, the pig-faced monsters created as a mockery of the German people, are now considered black people. Like I said, just... it's the irony that never ceases with that group of people. Like, they say everybody else is racist and that they're fighting against it, but then they say shit like that, which is racist itself. It's like nobody but a racist. Like, they're like, nobody but a racist would, like, you know, see this. And I'm like, we agree. Oh my god. Oh, I got Ball waiting in the call. Ball, my good man, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So, what are your thoughts on this stuff?
I just don't understand it because the thing I can't understand is why they keep going on about it, like women in wargaming and things like that. When have we ever had a sign up saying, "Oh, this certain gender isn't allowed" or "This color isn't allowed"?
Never.
Exactly. So I just don't get that point.
I don't
Just
get it either.
There's never been a problem in any of the clubs I've ever been to. If anything, people are more helpful when somebody comes in who's different.
Yeah, and this is, and the thing is, the girls at this specific panel, I don't know if you saw my video, but Hattie, the woman who was making a video on it specifically with Midwinter Minis, she said it herself that her and the whole panel admitted that 99% of their experience is positive. But this whole panel is about talking about that 1%. And the panel isn't even about uplifting or celebrating women. She said it herself. It's specifically about talking about how women and non-male genders are marginalized in the space. While in the same breath admitting that 99% of the time it's nothing but a welcoming environment.
Yeah. They could put that into where they work as well then. If they work in a mainly male environment, they'll get the same thing. There's always going to be that little 1%. Doesn't matter what you do in life.
Exactly. And I made a big point of that myself. It's no matter what you do, where other people are concerned, there will always be people who are rude, who are obnoxious, who are not the kind of people you want to associate with, but they're going to be in the spheres you do want to associate with. You'll never purify a space. That's impossible. Short of you being the only one in the space.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. Human beings are diverse, not in the sense that they mean it, real diversity, which is mindsets, the way people think, the way people feel, the way people perceive things. There will always be diverse mindsets wherever you go, and with that will come certain mindsets you don't mesh with, and who will insult you, who will look for low-hanging fruit to piss you off. You can't let it bother you, especially when the majority are the good people. Focus on them. Why make a whole panel bitching about the 1% that you'll never get rid of, and making the hobby look bad? And also, go ahead.
I was going to say, rather than actually making a panel and promoting the 99% that have been great.
Exactly.
Like I say, it's all blowing mountains out of molehills, and I just don't get it.
I don't get it either. And that's why I made the video I did, and that's why this open mic's happening. It's just, it's a stupid inclusion, and I think it creates segregation in the community where it didn't exist.
Oh, definitely. 100%.
Yeah, because we've never needed a woman's panel before. Like we've never had to separate ourselves into groups like that. That divides a community.
Yeah, because all that's going to do is, like you say, it's going to divide it, because there's going to be always going to be people that just want to rebel against stuff. So they're just going to cause more trouble than they're going to fix.
I agree.
So, yeah, it can only ever be a bad thing. If you just leave people, let them just get on with it, as long as it doesn't go beyond the normal social norms, then just leave them to it. The only time you need to step in is when somebody's actually being aggressive.
Yeah, and this community, I'm pretty sure, would. Like, can you imagine if some, like, actual misogynist showed up to a tournament and was, like, being a genuine, not a troll, a genuine fuckhead? Everybody in there would throw his ass out.
Yeah, they'd frog march him out the door and be like, "Yep, see ya."
See ya, Buttermilk Bob. Don't come back. Exactly.
Yeah. I just, when they go on about, when some women go on about that they've been to clubs and they've been called this and been called that, I'm thinking, What clubs have you been to? Because it ain't any of the ones I've been to.
Yeah. Like, I've never seen it IRL. Not once.
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing is, though, they say that they've been to these clubs, but there's never any evidence.
Yeah.
It's only their word.
Exactly. And I'll tell you this, from what I got of the panel I watched, it didn't look like they were bringing any like poster boards showcasing what they were experiencing. And even then, they said that the 1% that they're complaining about is on social media. Oh, great. So
Oh. Yeah.
Even less staying power.
Yeah, keyboard warriors.
Yeah, like, it's just it's disappointing to see, especially since Hattie, who's the girl on this panel, I respect her a lot. She's like a Midwinter Minis personality, and she's a talented painter. And she, from what I've seen of the videos from Midwinter Minis, with her in them, she's nothing but a positive force. So I was disappointed to see her on a panel that's just about her vagina and victimhood of that, when I think she should be on like a Hobby Heroes panel.
Yeah, but it also makes me laugh in the sense that they keep going like this, and then the next thing is if everybody starts treating them different, it'll be, oh, you're only treating me different because I'm a woman, or I'm a girl, or whatever. It's like, well, that's what you wanted a minute ago. Now you want to be treated the same, so make your mind up. What do you want?
They'll never be satisfied.
Yep.
So I'm just staying the course and treating them the same as every other hobbyist.
Yeah. It's like anything else, and if they get on my nerves a bit, then all I do is just blank them, just ignore them. They'll go away. They always do.
I agree.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to ask or say about?
Not really. I just think it's the case of it's just when they do stuff like this, it's all it's doing is just damaging the hobby because it's just scaring off people that are just getting into it.
Yeah. I agree, man. Thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
No, thank you.
I love Ball. Ball's a great man. Alright, we're going to the next caller. Karn, welcome. How you doing?
Shimoji, I'm doing pretty good. And how are you?
I am doing pretty good. So, what are your thoughts on this stuff?
My thoughts that panel actually has nothing to do with the hobby. I doubt they even care a rat's ass about it. Why they are doing that is just to have a little bit of fame. The hobby is just a way for them to get it. Like, I highly doubt they they are actually in the hobby. Well, except for the one girl that you said it's like apparently popular among them. I haven't heard of her personally.
Hattie is she has an Instagram and she's also on Midwinter Minis, which to be fair is mostly run by Guy. But she joined his team I want to say about a year ago now, and she's had a couple videos where it's just been her like painting videos and stuff. And I really like her. She seems, like, at least in those videos and in that content, she always seemed pretty genuine about her enjoyment with the painting process. And she's a pretty talented painter, I thought. So for me, it was very much out of left field to see her go on a panel like this. And especially when the panel's not even like celebrating anything. It's just about a presumed victimhood and complaining.
Oh, they don't need more than that. That's like enough already for them to go on the well, not the warpath, but like I said, it's a way for them to just get recognition. It doesn't really matter if it's about the hobby or it might well have been Star Wars, but Star Wars is already quote unquote occupied. They are just trying to get the victory more or less. Those people. That's I would say. It's nothing but like for their own ego. They don't care if they are going to leave the hobby for the better or not.
Yeah, I would agree.
What they care is to be that person that points out the injustice of this world because, like, look at them. They are not going to change anything in the world.
Nope.
Like, no man is going to take people like women like that. Like their future is either to have a cock of an husband or like live alone. Which I would say it's better to not make this a giant deal and just do what we should do with quote unquote undesirables like them. Gatekeep them out of the hobby.
I'd agree.
Don't.
And I said as much towards the end of my the video I did on it. I think it's at like 30 minutes and 26 seconds.
I didn't get to watch it just yet because, well, the video came out when I was at work and I just
No, it's
arrived
fine, it's
an hour or so ago.
Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, I said, gatekeep always. Like, push back against people trying to alter, change, or like malleate the hobby with political ideology and overblowing issues in the community that aren't really issues. I think the sad thing is when I saw so many people in the comments of the video in question, I saw so many people were like, yes, Queen, Slay, those types.
Those are the comments. They are from those people that they already have had on their Instagram. They already know what's up. They don't agree with them as much as just riding their shadow.
Fair enough.
Like, those are just the followers. Like, I wouldn't worry that much. Because it's... I think that's happening this year, more and more that I see, is that most normies are really getting sick of those types of moral busybodies.
The political ideologues, yeah.
Yeah, and it will not be different with our hobby. Like you see it more and more that people are just sick and tired of those kinds of people. I keep repeating that word. But yeah, I wouldn't worry that much about that. Like the only thing they do is like appear on panels. They don't interact with the hobby or anything.
I mean, I can't speak for all the women on the panel. I can only speak for Hattie. I think a couple of them are painters. I know there's one girl in it that's like a cosplayer. She like does dark Eldar, a Jakari kind of cosplay.
And she kind of reminds me of my old math teacher, but
okay.
Not saying that the Jukari are as evil as her, but they are pretty close. Hashtag not all Jukari.
You son of a bitch. Okay.
But what I mean, like, they are not like as super well known as like Arch or something like.
True. I mean, I think most of the women on the panel, most of them I never heard of before, to be fair.
If they're just painting minis, then they are like a dime of a dozen. Like, literally, everyone that's placed at tabletop does it themselves as well.
True. That's fair. So, is there anything else you want to ask or bring up?
Only that there are malicious people out there who will do anything for a couple of minutes of fame, and sometimes they will use your hobby to get those 5 minutes. And I just say, don't let them, ignore them, block them, tell them to fuck off. Facts don't work against them. We have tried the facts. They don't listen to them. Put them back into the chamber they crawled out of and just don't listen to those.
Yeah, well said. Thank you for coming on, Cry.
Oh, no need to thank me. See you later, my dude.
See you later. You should press the disconnect button. Alright, so those are my last callers. I want to end off by saying, thank you to everybody who called in, gave their takes, gave their opinions. We had so many great people. And after all this, I believe the Homeless Scholar, I think it was, said it best about my with the original video. For those that felt that I was walking on eggshells, hopefully, if you've gotten this far in the open mic, you'll see I'm pretty firm on this topic. I stand by my take. I think that the Women in Wargaming panel is a negative overall. It's bringing segregation into our hobby space. We're now starting to divide people based on immutable characteristics rather than unify us all under one banner as wargamers. We're not female wargamers, male wargamers, trans wargamers, black wargamers, Mexican wargamers, Argentinian wargamers, Middle Eastern wargamers. We're not these 1,000,001 fucking separate groups within a combined whole. No, we're all wargamers. And we should all see each other on that field as just that. Creating these segregations and these artificial divides between members of the community like this panel is doing is bad. Universally, it's wrong. And it's also with this panel, it's if that weren't bad enough, the goal of this panel wasn't even to uplift these ladies and showcase them as talented members of the sphere. Instead, it, by their own admission, it was all about complaining. Like, and not even complaining about what they truly believe to be a major issue, because they themselves have admitted it. 99% of their experience is positive. 99%. I've said it a million times in this stream and quite a few times in the video. If you experience 99% positivity in anything, that is a miracle. That is an evangelical miracle. Because I wouldn't describe my experience anywhere as 99% positive. And to make a panel and to make a big deal about fighting back against that 1%, you'll never get rid of them. You're lucky we got it down to 1%. Most hobby spaces, most hobby groups, most community bases are going to be way worse in terms of their positive to negative experience ratio. Where other people are involved, you will never call everybody you disagree with and who makes you feel unwelcome. You just need to be able to focus on that 99% in their case. Or in a lot of cases, that 90%, that 80%. Sometimes that 55% positivity that you might experience in a hobby. And ignore the rest. It's bucking up time. You got to man up, you got to woman up, you got to whatever the in-between is up. You gotta raise your heckles and say, I don't care what you have to say. I'm going to enjoy the positive, and I'm not going to let you ruin it for me. So it's just, this panel is wrong for so many reasons, and I hope that GW don't follow South London Salute's example and create a women in Wargaming's panel. I really hope that never happens, because mainstream segregation within the hobby space is going to be a huge, I believe, a domino effect of negativity. Now, I'm glad Karn seems so confident that it's not going to really go anywhere. I am still nervous that this will set a bad precedent if we don't speak up enough and say it's wrong. Which I am. I've said it in this podcast, in this open mic, and I've said it in my video. Now, one last thing I want to address before we call it. To the people, Dead Man Walking, who said, and frankly, as a gun, being sure to walk on eggshells about it is crap. If we just stand up for ourselves and choose a damn hill to die on, I'm dying on this hill. Maybe things wouldn't be as bad as they are. I agree. And we do need to stand our ground, and that's what I'm doing. Also to Smilomaniac, at some point, preambles and prefaces go from, hey, I'm not trying to start something, this is about my video, to please don't crucify me, I beg you. I'm counteracting that right now. It wasn't in my video, not the sober mic, the video. I wasn't, and the homeless scholar nailed it with what he pointed out. My lengthy preamble at the beginning of that video is not because I'm afraid of backlash. If I was afraid of backlash, would I have supported and defended Arch during both of his major controversies in the past? Would I still stand by him to this day? Which I do, by the way. If I was afraid of controversy, would I not be begging at the feet of content creators who I know have me blacklisted to never work with? Would I be doing that? Yes, I would. Am I? No. The reason for my lengthy preamble at the beginning of that video was because I actually respect Hattie as a personality. I like Midwinter Minis. It's probably my main source of miniature painting inspiration in the hobby. And to see them espouse, in my opinion, harmful and community harmful views and practices, such as segregating our community and inviting in sexist mentalities. I took my time. Also, the other reason it was so lengthy was because I didn't script it. It was off the cuffs. And when I don't script, I tend to ramble, such as right now. And this is the last one. It's kind of a lengthier one. And if you genuinely believe I did, be fearful and avoid taking on the topic, and you're like Smiling Maniac here, and, you found that it annoyed you and you didn't even bother watching the video before making a comment of criticism, and you want to, as he says, he's out, go to better channels than mine, I say to you, best of luck. And thank you for watching as long as you have. But I stand by my perspective, my point of view, and I didn't walk on eggshells. So I want to make that clear. Anyway, that's it for me, guys. I greatly appreciate everybody who came on the open mic. Actually, before we end, I'll take some last minute comments in the comments in the chat. So if you guys have anything real quick, just zip through those. I'll give that a minute, and then we'll sign off. Because I feel like I've neglected the chat a little bit during this. Okay, yes, orc pig face monsters created as a mockery of the German people are now considered black people. Jesus. I read that earlier. I think I repeated myself. Make you mind. Oh, make your mind. Oh, okay. This Tehedora is, by the way, in the chat. She's a girl. If you didn't catch on. Are you saying you never make up your mind, Tehe? You don't say. As I said before, attention is a hell of a drug. Correct. It is a hell of a drug. One that's not a fun drug most of the time to be, if you have the mindset I do, sometimes it can be annoying. Sometimes. Let me scroll up a little bit, see if there's anything that comes. Oh, James Knightman says, I would say some of them of the people sometimes fall into it unknowingly, but feel free to disagree. I think that's in regards to the people who become these like super aggressive, foot soldier activists that we see all over the place. Yeah, I'd say almost all of them fall into it in some capacity, but that doesn't change the result of them having fallen into it. Almost always they become hyper aggressive. They become perpetrators of the very thing that they say they're fighting against. They're extremely hypocritical. And yeah, they do this circular logic of insanity. If you can even call it logic. This circular thinking to an endless degree of like, oh, we need representation, we need diversity. Why? Well, because we need them. Why? Because, we want to have people feel welcome in the hobby. Why don't they feel welcome now? Because it doesn't have these things. Why would these things make it more welcoming? Because it would, okay? Why? Like, it's insanity. It's insanity. Also, make sure to leave a like on the stream before you guys head out, and on the video if you guys haven't seen it yet. Alright, just scrolling up. I don't see anything else that catches my eye. So I assume we're all cut up. Alright, yep. I'm going to end it here, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching the Open Mic podcast here. And if for those who called in, Zara23 says, I hate to say it, but Chaos Cultists make more sense. I can't say I disagree. And on that note, we'll call it there. Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you so much for the people who came on to the Open Mic, shared their thoughts, and shared their point of view. Thank you so much to everybody who's participated in the chat and left a like. make sure to support the podcast. And if you haven't seen the video, please go check out the video. It's right on the channel page. It should be the latest upload. And yeah, I'm going to go play Among Us with my Discord community and probably call it a day after that. Thank you guys so much for being an awesome community. And gatekeep and gatekeep always. Fight back against the nut jobs that are trying to ruin our hobby. Adios.